everyone, we're back again. It is today an off day for streaming. I wouldn't normally stream on a Friday, but here we are because I didn't stream yesterday. I've been working very hard on new tech, specifically Cabby, for those of you remember. And she was up and running today with some features better than ever, but with a few things still definitely need to be tweaked. AI tend to be very likely to respond to everything they see. And that's something which is kind of annoying when she's responding to people that aren't talking to her and are talking to someone else about something else she's not involved in. That's one of the main things I want to fix. So even leaving Cabby on when she's working mostly, but is sometimes annoying, isn't really worth it at the moment. So I'll fix that first. Yes, indeed, Ghost. It is true. I often don't, and yet here I am today. Yes, Aiden, that was an interesting experience yesterday. We tried our best, but it was fascinating to see that as I had to leave briefly, different diagnostic questions were asked. Diagnostic questions I probably would have got to myself eventually. But just a question of like, how good is this PC you've supposedly spent thousands of pounds on from a PC repair shop where you say that you trust the people there? And it turns out after not much investigation that you've probably been routinely scammed by these people for thousands of pounds, and they've given you a pretty crap computer. And that's why you thought components died after 6 months, because they were giving you components that only had 6 months of life left and then charging you 10 times their price. It's impressive how extreme that scam is, if that's really what's happened, Aiden. My sympathies to you, but wow. I'm surprised that no one around you noticed, to be honest. I didn't really have an opportunity to. But yeah. Were the people at the PC repair shop of a nacho skin color persuasion by any chance? Never mind. I guess we'll never know. Not the one guy. Oh, what? So some of them work in there, are there? Ethnic guns, so French. Oh, Jesus. Can you confirm they were French, Aiden? Because that would explain it. Like, there are people of a white persuasion who would scam you routinely. They exist, but it's not super common, especially with all the immigrants running around. The guy Bill went to school with is a girl. Well, then how did it happen? How did it happen, Aiden? Have you talked to them? Have you done anything about this? Or are you going to take it slow? Maybe for the best. Because if it's true that they've done this, then you have a massive lawsuit for them, I expect. Nachos, you trust Cabby. I don't want to piss off the guy Bill's kind of friends. Aiden, they've scammed you out of many thousands of pounds. You don't just let that go. Understandable, Ghost, understandable. All right, so today we have, among other things, the story of, and actually, let me get the photograph that I went to London and took specifically for this. Here we go. This is the photograph that I took in London. Keir Starmer and Tony Blair have been fighting. We'll get to that. But first, some memes. Yeah, so this is just true. This guy says, life advice, the guy in a fuck you hat would almost certainly pull you out of a burning car if needed. Anybody wearing a shirt mentioning love or kindness, meanwhile, might feign concern while watching you burn to death. In their subsequent telling of your fiery death, they'll manage to make themselves the main character. The fuck you hat guy, meanwhile, may never mention the rescue for the rest of his life. Very true. This is true very often, and the reason is complex, but to put simply into one word, compensation. Psychopaths who wish to be seen as good people for the benefits will adorn themselves as such. And people who just want to be left alone but are actually good people will adorn themselves as such. And there's way more you could go into it with more detail, sure. But that's a pretty good summary. It's the same reason why so many Nazis like femboys. Yeah, exactly. Aiden. Narcissism will definitely be a big factor. You're wearing a plain shirt and lighting the cars on fire yourself, Malkatil. Okay, that makes sense. What's the thing between Nazis and femboys, says Retros? Homosexuals who want to appear masculine as if they were straight naturally are drawn towards an ideology which feels masculine. And so they end up going for like hardcore compensatory ideology, like fascism, Nazism, whatever. But they are still homosexuals, and that's still stronger than their ideology. So it's compensatory, but it doesn't actually erase the thing itself. They like BDSM stuff because they're sex weirdos, so indeed. All right. Next thing. Jharkhand, the absolute state of India. Frustrated girl commits suicide after parents refuse to build toilet at home. In Dumka, which is a place, a 17-year-old girl in Jharkhand yesterday committed suicide after parents refused her demand of a toilet in the house. Khushbu Kumari, a first-year BA student in AN College Dumka, hanged herself at her ... Yes, you're not allowed a toilet in India. Maybe a bit of an overreaction. I expect this is one of those stories where it's like, she committed suicide after that happened. It doesn't mean that's the cause. It just happened to be after it. There's a lot of press does that. But it may be because of it. They think toilets are haunted. Who the fuck gave them this belief? It wasn't us. If anything, we did the opposite. Ghost is honestly most relatable Indian, indeed. I remember, chat, the cost to make Chris Chan read out your message is lower than ever. It's currently at 50 User coins. Just cheer 50, and then Chris Chan will read out your message on a queue. Who and Lou sounds like something a ghost would say. I suppose so, yeah. There's plenty of oohing on there. That must be it. Yeah. Well, at least Vishnu's Vishnu's not too upset that they're still wallowing in their own feces. I mean, what is it? It's supposed to be a bad idea to surround yourself with shit. How are they surviving more? How are they out-competing those that do get toilets? I guess just by like strict social pressure. You get a toilet, well, are you really Indian? Are you really one of us? Nah, kill him. Must be it. Saw a video of an Indian who got so mad at other Indians not showering, he lost that annoying ass accent. It was surprising. Yeah, there are probably some, I say probably, there are almost certainly some, in every group who hate the abject failures of the rest of their group. And they are the few among whom we may find those capable of integrating into finer societies. Nomon, I have an Indian story for you here. A girl committed suicide because her parents would not buy her a toilet.
I think I saw this one. Did you get it from Times of India?
No, I got it from a meme in Cabal. It's just an image. It's probably true, though. I mean, I don't know for sure if it is, but it's definitely funny. All right, next thing. Unofficial first sign of summer these days is no longer fledgling birds taking flight or hearing an ice cream van's chimes, but a Pakistani drowning in a river or falling off a cliff after they ventured out of the urban area that they also don't know how to function in. But apparently a teenage girl has died after going into the River Wharfe in North Yorkshire. They do this though, don't they? In India, they just wander into the river. Not to kill themselves, I guess to wash or to dump fucking rubbish. But in this case, I guess the river was a bit faster moving than the Ganges. I expect not quite as poisonous though. Or was it that Indian politician took a cup of Ganges water? You could see it not clean, drank it, instantly hospitalized, and I think he died. Can't swim. Well, yeah, with the males having the grip strength of a human female 10-year-old or something. The females must have even less. Probably some of the physically weakest humans in the world. I guess the females are weaker. Then again, could you get much weaker than that? They also drown their babies and throw their dead into the river. Ganges is a god in their dung religion, and she or he eats people. Yeah, that makes sense. It's just like it's a fucking well, I guess Ori as well, but the worm worshippers. Yes, these things use you. They eat you. With human gods, where there's a belief in the sort of power and the demands of that god, at least there may be some social benefits to that. You're not just feeding your people to to your dictators. Suckers can't even grip water, exactly. Outstrengthed by water. Next up, speaking of India, new video game, India Simulator. Is there such a thing as life in India? I'm not sure it counts. But yes, this video, you'll be shocked to hear, thank you, Grok, was made with AI. I guess there are people that wouldn't, there are people in the world that wouldn't figure that out, aren't there? They exist, there's millions of them. They're called boomers. Is India in life? Sadly, yes. Yeah, if you're, I mean, you can understand why they have such a suicide-oriented religion. I mean, they were born Indian, for goodness sake. Made with actual Indians. God, imagine the smell. All right, next thing. Oh yeah, look, the leftist has done it again. He's done it again. He's posted it again. How to make the USA the smartest country in the world, he says. USA and hypothetical country. And he's labeled hypothetical country as specifically the southeast of the US, which is, in fact, yes, the nigger map. The liberal has posted the nigger map. Look at him go. Hello, Ginger. Look, the nigger has posted the liberal has posted the nigger map once again. They're trying to kick out every state with blacks in it from the US. For those that don't know, these in red are the states with the, thank you, Ginger, with by far the highest concentration of blacks in them. No, not all, but most, at least many, of the jabs that the left make against the supposedly poor whites is actually a problem with blacks in the states where poor whites also reside. They marked Alaska as black. No, they put Alaska in the whites only box. They're the most intense NIMBYs without even realizing it. Yeah, well, the thing is, Ginger, really, like every time it happens, I have to consider more and more. Do I just go and code a bot that server mutes Ginger for 15 seconds on the hour? Shall I do that, chat? Press 1 if I should do that.
The last time we discussed this, I did point out that thing chimes with such an irregularity that 15 seconds would be nowhere near enough.
It's not far off. It's not far. Otherwise, I'm going to have to build something that detects it. All right. I need to fix me green screen quickly because I made some changes to it recently, and as you can see, it's not working too well with my current attire. Ooh, yeah, that's not too good. If I turn that off,
I do find it quite entertaining that out of everybody in this server, you are literally the only one who dislikes the sound of that clock going off.
Yeah, well, I am often the only one who's right. Okay, that'll do for now. I might have to just adjust that regularly, but that's all right for now. Wear a green shirt next time. Yeah, I could do that. Why is that taking so long to render? Oh, because I didn't start up AI host. that would do it. Servers, yeah. AI
Did you
host.
intentionally make the screen go completely black there?
Oh no, sorry. It's because I'm on a different desktop. 1 second. I'll be right, but only Discord is affected by this. Yeah, host. Okay. And now I should be able to just restart me main bot and it should send it in. I hope. All right. Give it a sec. Notify queue. It should. Oh, it didn't. Did it resume? Oh yeah, it is doing it. Okay, good. Good, it works. It works. I had to restart my PC recently, so that's why it did it. Okay, if I do that, now that won't happen again. All right, now it says 1. Good, I didn't have to restart this between streams either. That's nice. Why is that not playing? Okay, maybe I did have to restart it between streams. That's weird. It's very weird. I should have played. 1 second, chat. It's working before. First time I've had any issues with this, actually. That's odd. Is it trying to play? No, I don't see it. Okay, well, there is an alternative. I can just go and find the audio file myself and play it manually. Because it saves it as an audio file. Where would it be? It'd be here, I assume. Audio queue, and then modified, open.
Mofaku, Barry McCockiner for 50 says Gigastream Hornsponse Maxima TJD.
Thank you. Just works. Thank you, Nachos. It does indeed. It just works. Why would that not have worked? Still have the application. Yeah, I don't know. That's weird. It happens again. I'll have to manually play it again. Okay. Let's have a look at the current state of the board. There it is, chat. General rule is if something gets into the top 5, it's if it's one of the recognized things that I've mentioned before, then it's likely to happen. We'll do Hornsponse. If Hornsponse or a similar topic gets into the top 5 today, it's not a prohibitive amount either. Gigastream the same. Well, Gigastream is specifically if it gets 10k. And then Maximut's still an option to give Nachos the brown roll. What is Aidin GPT? I don't know, but we should create that. I don't know why that's so high up on the board, actually. I guess someone must have cheered for it. Yeah, I don't know why that's so high up, actually. That's weird. Hold on, let me have a look. Topic Aidin GPT. Well, I can tell you who's denouncing it. It's your fellow member of the Women's Alliance. Looks like no one's supported it recently. Wait, what? What the fuck? That's the old system. Why is that running? Uh-oh. I think I know why. That's not good. Yeah, the old system's still running. I didn't disable it, I just turned it off last time I was running it. Cabal Economy, I think it's that as well. Okay, they're both off now. Yeah, that was the old, okay, restart it. Whatever commands you were trying to run them again now, it should work now. Yeah, that was the old Cabal Aid system, which was still running in the background. Because I restarted the PC and I hadn't prevented it from starting on boot. I also don't know why Aidin GPT is up this high on the board, by the way. If I do 1 month, it has been mentioned in the last 1 month, apparently. Let's have a look at 1 week. No, not 1 week. 3 weeks. Not 3 weeks either. So, in the last 4 weeks, a significant amount has gone towards the Aidin GPT topic, but not in the last 3 weeks. So I guess that's close enough for the board. Yeah, well, it was a big amount by the looks of it. I don't think the next thing will work now. I don't know why that's not working. Yeah, that's not muted or anything. Oh, is it because... Is it not wired up? I thought I fucking fixed this. Okay, I know what the problem is now. I can fix it. I believe it's supposed to be 101 and 102. For those curious, actually, I did already talk about that.
Trybeard for 100 says, if a vegan is given head, can they swallow? That's just sermons. How about
I always find his the noises that he makes after he's finished the sentence to be so inspiring. You know, so insightful. Really, that is often the best part. Chat, here's the challenge for you. Can you say something as Christian that is more insightful than what he says after your message? Like the random noises he makes. Is it possible for you to do so? All right, next thing. Oh, that is in the, that's on the wrong thing. I do need to get a more permanent fix for this.
How do you define ceasefire? How do you define ceasefire?
Pretty much the way it is. It's a different part of the world. You know, I'd say in that part of the world, ceasefire is when you're shooting in a more moderate manner.
How do you define?
Yeah, pretty much. Like, I mean, that's a pretty low bar as well to set for when you have achieved it. So maybe a bit self-serving to say that. But yeah, generally speaking, he's not wrong. Yeah, alas, he is. Defeated Cybersmith quotes. Yeah, should we? How do you think Cybersmith would react if we just stole his voice to use for the for the donation alert? Probably wouldn't be very happy. But maybe he'd consider it to be his actual opinion, whatever we make the bot say. Yeah, exactly, Ghost. I'm not very happy about doing that. However, what we should do is make Aiden make a fake voice of herself, and then we can make her say whatever we want her to say. He might do, Nomon. He might do. We can make him think he disproved the Vatican Tunnel. That's true. We can make him say anything. Yeah, Nachos, maybe he'll just accept it. I don't know. Not likely. All right, next thing. Yeah, it's fucking Steven Seagal has been eating members of the Chinese delegation. Here he is. Is all 600 of him. It's I'd say that he's fallen far, but then he was never anywhere to fall from. What is the deal with Steven Seagal? Because a lot of you have seen the video of him going into like martial arts things and just using minimal effort, and the guys just flip over. It's obviously that they're throwing, but why are they throwing? Has he literally hired actors? Is that literally what he's doing? Is it that shallow, or is there something more to it than that? I'd prefer to believe that there's something more to it than just hires actors to do it. I prefer to believe that there's more, but I can't imagine anyone having the presence of mind to be competent at faking it, or competent at the martial arts required to make it look real, and yet not beating him. Because
Can I tell you about Steven Seagal?
Oh, you're a big fan of Steven Seagal, aren't you, Aiden?
In a very ironic way, yes.
Really? Really?
Yes.
Ironic?
Yes, because this podcast I've been listening to for at this point going on nearly 20 years has been fucking with him for about half a decade, like very deeply. So I know a bit of Steven Seagal lore. He grew up, at least partially, some of his life, he lived in Japan. So he really did take martial arts from a very young age. Now, he is the biggest over-exaggerator I've ever seen. You hear him talking, he's like, I've been doing karate for 87 years. I've been flying helicopters for like 33 years. He's just he up-talks himself. However, some of the very early films that he was in, he did all his own stunts. He does have training in martial arts. So essentially he established himself as having these bona fides, as being a legitimate karate guy, legitimate martial artist. And then he just kind of will work for nothing because it's pure ego for him. It's all ego. So you can hire a guy who is at this point a technically big name, at least a known actor, for nothing. Just he's old and fat, so you have to let him sit down now while he does it. That's about it. Anyway, that's all.
Fair enough. That's all she wanted to join the the host room for, by the way, chat. Okay, by the way.
Mafaku Barry McCockiner for 50 says, a black woman's place in history is insignificant enough for her life not to be of importance. The black race is a plague upon the world. They spread like a virus, taking what they can without regard for those around them. So,
Is that the kind of thing Chris Chan would actually say? Just so you know, we have not yet, I don't think, reached our goal for the Christery, Who's a Watch Christery documentary, where I will just start watching the Chris Chan documentaries. Instead of occasional stream, like on some streams, we'll just do Chris Chan documentary watch through. And I believe the requirement for that currently is that we just get it to the top 5 in the board or something. I think it was that. Actually, it's so grating I have to take off my headphones every time it starts, says No Mod. Jack, do you have any other suggestions for voices that we could use? By the way, Aiden, we can hear Bill. Any other suggestions for voices that we could use that are a bit less grating than that? I could just see what else is in Aiden's selection on 11 Labs. Or we could use Squeagle, which is the really unpleasant sort of also grating high-pitched one from earlier. It's a good point, Ghost. Yeah, that would be horrible. Yeah, we could use that for sure. It'd be fucking horrible. That just likes how annoying it is. I could turn the volume down a bit. You can voice tone JF, but yeah, why bother? Why would we need to do that? Just do it myself. All right, next thing. We will move on to the main story soon of Blair versus Keir. Shall I donate my annoying voice for a contribution bot voice? Thank you, Ginger, but I think I don't think I feel right using your voice. Cybersmith's on the other hand. Okay, U.S. lawmakers introducing a bill to rename the street next to the Chinese embassy in Washington in memory of the 1989 Tiananmen Square massacre. Senator Rick Scott is introducing a bill on June 4th, the 37th anniversary, with a companion bill in the House by Representative Andy Ogles. The proposal would change the embassy address from 3505 International Place NW to 1 Tiananmen Square Memorial Boulevard. Yes, this is the kind of thing that China deserves. Earlier, I was testing an AI model which was suggested by Seraph, which is called DeepSeek Flash, V4 Flash, which is surprisingly not very censored. Much like Grok, but it's much cheaper than Grok. So I was testing that. It wasn't right for what I was using it for, so I didn't use it, but if you ask it about Tiananmen Square, it being a Chinese model, it gives fair answers, reasonable answers. But if you ask it about Tiananmen Square in Chinese, shuts you down. You can't ask it about that in Chinese. You can in English, but not in Chinese. Yeah, that was interesting. Not talking about my... Yes, I know you're not talking about your usual speaking voice. I know exactly which voice you mean. Chat, press 1 if we should record Bartholomew chiming, feed that into the AI voice thing, and just see what it comes out with. And then we can have him be extremely annoying whenever we feel like it. Well, if one of you wants to do that, you might be able to do it without paying 11 Labs, and then just share the voice, and I should be able to use it. Or... ultimately, if we want to do this, ultimately we would need some clean audio samples, Ginger. I don't know how you'd want to do it, but ultimately that would have to be from you. So clean recordings of the clock chiming would be the way to solve that. That just would slaughter all of us for a clock owned by someone else that she has never seen. Well, that's certainly very nachos of you, I must say. Okay. So yeah, this is based and good. Next thing. Oh yeah, this is pretty good. Plans released for a $16 billion mile-long ship capable of carrying 80,000 people. The Freedom ship would be home to about ... And I think I've seen plans for this, and it's very ambitious, but I don't think it'll happen. And this is brilliant. He says, sorry, but there's no way you're building a 1 billion mile long ship for $16 just because of how it's written. $16, 1 billion mile long ship. Hey, it's there. It's on the page. That's what you wrote. It's funny. And I was like, absolutely not. Well, you don't think you could do a 1 billion mile long ship for $16? Come on. That's not too cheap. You could do that. This is Go on.
I have two things for you.
Oh, Jesus. Let me guess. Is it the clock chiming? Let's see how clean they are. The second one's much cleaner. In order to train an AI voice model, incidentally, this is not the kind of sample that would actually train a competent AI voice model. The idea is we throw in a bunch of sounds of Bartholomew chiming, and whatever it outputs as the voice, we just use that. It'll probably be very incoherent and discordant and random, but that means we need a lot of samples. A half-second clip like that isn't really enough. We'd need the full chime all the way through, and ideally like 6 different variations of that. Even though it'll sound pretty similar, but just a decent chunk of audio, and clean would remove the static from the output. Because if it's when it's voice with static, I'm pretty sure that Eleven Labs can distinguish between voice and static pretty well, so it probably cuts out the static. But when there's no voice, there's nothing to distinguish, and so it's probably going to confuse the static with the signal, quote unquote, which is the clock. So we'd need to make sure it's clean, and maybe they remove the static before we start. I just loop it. Well, it doesn't really work like that. A sample of like 6 seconds of it chiming or whatever it is. We could produce something with it, but I don't think it'd be any good. Fran Drescher voice would be annoying. What does this sound like? Oh, I have to open it in a browser.
I have so much wisdom to impart, like how to purse your lips to get that little pouty look, how to smell cauliflower, for that who cares about you look. And
it's just like the lesser annoying Jew voice, like Kyle's mother in South Park, kind of like that. There are worse examples than that, but that's a good start. This is like just a less extreme version of that. The laugh is worse. Yeah, but we can't necessarily make the AI voice thing do a laugh. I don't know if we can. Her entire vocal range is nasal. Indeed. The lesser annoying Jew. What is the greater annoying Jew? I don't remember any named people who are a good example, but as I said, like Carl's mum from South Park is an okay example, but I think there are better ones. Can we get the AI to use Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's voice? It'd basically be nachos, just less Latinx. That is true. Jeffrey Epstein. Epstein doesn't have a particularly recognizable voice. He wasn't really known for anything that he was doing vocally. It was more so his professional endeavors that he was known for. Carl's mom is a Jersey Jew. Fran Drescher is New York. She doesn't seem like a strong example of the problem. Greater annoying Jew. You mean Zephyr? He's not actually that annoying, Zephyr, despite being Jewish. All right. Okay. The picture on your screen right now is a toaster which is frozen because it's getting a software update. My question is, why? Just why? There's other devices for which it makes some sense, not that I'd ever do it necessarily, but some sense why you'd want it to be digital and have like smart features. A TV, sure, some people would prefer that. I would never, but some people prefer that. I get that. A car, there's many useful features you can put in a car. Even a fridge makes more sense than a fucking toaster. Yes, Ginger?
But Uzulu, what if What you want to do is leave bread in the toaster overnight and then have it automatically toast itself as you wake up.
Now, see, Ginger, what you've done there is you've come up with an actual use for doing this. But if I wanted to do that, I would rather Wallace and Gromit it than this. I would rather buy a fucking solenoid or whatever I'd need to make the thing go down than, or alternatively, right, and this is the real killer feature that everyone's going to want. As soon as I mention it, everyone's going to go out and patent this, right?
Is it slaves?
Just no. It's much more fundamental than that. Just when you wake up, put the bread in the toaster and press the thing down when you wake up. Because there's actually many advantages to this. Okay, advantage one, it's actually versatile to when you wake up. If there's any variation, some people wake up on a specific time, fine. But if there's any variation in when you wake up, then it's actually it attenuates itself to that. Secondly, is it popping up? You'll need to be there for it anyway, so it doesn't really save you very much time. So you might as well do it this way. Thirdly, you get a full customization over how much toast you want. You want 2 pieces of toast? Easy, just put 2 in. What are the features? I mean, it's features. Features are coming out my ears here,
I mean,
Chad.
Everything
have you considered?
that you
I
have just
can't
described.
buy that.
Everything that you have just described in terms of functionality, Uzulu, can be achieved by having a slave.
True, but slaves are quite expensive. Unfortunately, Zenman, the problem with a timer-based plug, which do exist, and I've used them briefly for some purposes, is that you can't, like, the toaster doesn't move the tray down and start toasting when it turns on. You have to manually do that. Now, if you've got a special kind of toaster that does do that, then yeah, you could do that. But I'd be cautious about a toaster that automatically starts toasting just because it's got power. I'm not sure you should design it that way. Ratchets, you don't pay slaves, but you have to pay for them. Like, they have maintenance costs. Pull the lever down when you put the bread. Yes, that's my suggestion. What's the other option?
There is another option. Instead of buying a slave, make a slave.
That's what I've been doing.
This does require a woman.
Yeah, but children can't reach the toaster. Which is for the best, because they'll make mistakes. They're like AI, they hallucinate all the time. Let them starve then. This is not an attempt to solve the problem of feeding children, Nachos. Now, I know that you have your issues with the concept of children.
Oh, good. His mic cut out for a moment.
Oh, fantastic. This is not a challenge of how to feed children, Nachos. Even though I know you have your issues with children, I'm sure you understand that feeding children is not a matter of, well, if there's a software update, the children will starve to death. No problem at feeding children. It is a problem. It's been a problem since the dawn of time. Generally solved, but not always. You're like 7 foot, they'll be able to reach it at 6 months. That's true. That is true. Only if they have a skill issue. You point down at your child, your toddler child, and say, you can't even make toast, fucking skill issue. Get on my level. And then 20 years later, he does. I'm not endorsing not feeding children. In fact, I would like to come out on the side of endorsing feeding children. Yes, controversial, I know. But I am nothing if not controversial. To what? feed them. Feed them. What could we feed children to, chat? Which would not be. Sick Puppy. You've just joined. Perfect timing. Sick Puppy has recently been encouraging us to watch his favorite online program, which is piss fetish advocacy show featuring the feeding of children to suitcases. And so that, I believe, is what you must mean by feeding them to what? To suitcases. So that they can become goo and then protect you from the curse of going up. Yeah, Made in a Piss is a really weird anime. It's actually, there's like, a lot of aspects of it are good. I don't find myself enjoying it that much, but I can recognize it's still good. However, I still recommend don't watch it because it's got some disgusting fetish shit in it. Yeah. The lever pops up because heat, not time. That's true. In most of them, yeah. You put the bread at night, pull the lever, put the timer plug to start at 7 and it will, and you literally have the toast a bit easy. That's not a bad idea actually, Zeman, except I'm pretty sure that if you turn the power off, it pops back up again. I'm not sure about that though, it might not be the case. But that's not bad, that's maybe worth trying actually. That's interesting. That implies though that something electrical is holding the thing down and then when it stops getting power, it releases. So I don't know why it would. It's odd. Maybe that is deliberate, though. Hyperfixating on the piss stuff. There's tons of fucked up shit. No, it's not. Sick Puppy, the horror aspects, the body horror aspects are expected and normal. It's that kind of anime. The weird fetish stuff, of which the piss is the most noticeable, is not expected or welcome in any sense. I'm not sitting here saying, oh, it's hard to watch because it's, you know, kind of gory. No, I'm not complaining about that. That's to be expected. I'm saying it's hard to watch because the writer sexualizes children in almost every episode, and in some cases shows you their piss. And that's just the anime. See, Puppy, you really were. Honestly, you were better off when you were trying to convince us that you exactly, Ginger. You were better off when you were trying to convince us that you don't like Made in a Piss and that you were trolling us by making us watch it. You were better off when you were telling that lie than trying to excuse it. You're back to your original strategy now of trying to excuse it or act like there's nothing wrong with it or act like the piss isn't so bad or that it's weird I'd care. No, there's no justification for it, said Bobby. You are simply wrong. Are you sure that you're not projecting? Yes, I am sure that I'm not projecting. Are you sure that you're not defending the piss anime? Because I'm sure that you are. An electromagnet and the heat coil thing that breaks the contact then when it gets hot enough. Okay, that's cool. Electromagnet. Nacho says the push fetish is too even for her. Yeah, what does she mean by this? What kind of fetish material would not be too much? Apparently the margins are quite wide. Next thing. Oh yeah, this guy has opinions. So Goblin here, which is actually an appropriate name given what he's done, says, I wanted to discover how long I could not pay my power bill before LA County comes and shuts me down. Turns out that answer is 2.5 years. It's been a sick run. And there's the disconnect notice. It says he owes $6,500 for his electricity, right? Now, you might think, oh, the guy is just poor. And this is just like his cope excuse for why he can't pay it. You know, being poor is not necessarily something you can easily control. But however, that's not the case. As the conversation continued, this guy says, so you decided to be irresponsible and not pay it, even though you had the money. Wow, I'll never understand some people. To which he said, when I turned 18, I immediately got 3 credit cards, maxed them out, then moved never updated my ID address. They all tried to sue me and couldn't find me. My credit was below 400 for years, he says, now 614. Credit and debt are just numbers. Are you scared of numbers? I'm not, he says. That's theft. I don't see how you can justify it. To which he says, I still owe my dentist $1,000. I owe the trash company $400. I owe my old power company $600. I owe AT&T $150. Xfinity $200. PayPal $1 and banned for life. He says, I owe credit card companies nearly $20,000. I'll never pay any of it. Don't let a number control you, he says. Well, There's more as well. He says, I'm not trolling. Last month I made enough money to pay off every debt I have. He says, I paid none of them. You don't need to feel sorry for me. I am free from the shackles you've glued yourself to. Don't let the number win, he says. You think that's that's going to come back to you? Seriously? You don't think that's going to come back to you? He says, the only debt worth worrying about is to the IRS. The rest of them aren't shit. Try getting into some civil debt sometime. It's free, he says. Well, this is interesting, isn't it? This is sort of like metagaming real life. Yeah, the whole idea of debt is that we have a monopoly on force, which is supposed to make sure that a system where debt exists, which supposedly is better, but that's questionable, but assuming it is can be supported by the force that you must pay it off, because the government will put you in prison if you don't. Or if you fight back, maybe they'll even kill you. Which, yes, ultimately, anything you make a law, you have to be willing to kill someone over. Because if they say no and then defend themselves from physical aggression, it's based like libertarian stuff, but it's true. Anything that is a law, you have to be willing to kill someone over. That's how serious lawmaking should be taken. But yeah, that's the idea. That supports a system of debt, and that's why you're able to do it. You know, if debt is a tool in our arsenal, it requires the monopoly of force to maintain it. And in this guy's case, it isn't. Or he's found ways to avoid it. Doesn't sound like they're very complicated either. If you don't need the service that someone is actively providing, then probably in many cases, not everywhere in the world, but in many cases, you can just dodge it. I'm not recommending that you do. But the reasons that I'm not recommending it are not because it wouldn't ultimately be practically beneficial, potentially, if you got away with it. Because if you got away with it, yeah, you wouldn't have to pay the money and you would have just got it for free. The problems are, you probably won't get away with it, depending on where you are. And also the slight ethical issues. Like, it's a number, yeah. The number is the signal. The number is not the thing itself. The thing itself is that someone has done something for you. You could consider it a favor, not a personal favor, but it's like a friend doing a favor for you and then asking you for something later, and you just saying, no, fuck you. Well, they're not going to be friends with you for very much longer. And in this case, yeah, you don't want to be friends with any of these companies, but it's not the civil thing to do. It's just extremely low trust behavior. If everyone did this, it would be terrible. Society would not function. The fact that even a few people do it is, you know, a problem in and of itself. But if everyone did it, it would just not function at all. And yes, obviously the ethical concern that the number is irrelevant. It is the fact that someone has given you something and you refuse to do anything about it. So this guy is using the quote numbers thing here as a cope, I believe, to allow him to get away with doing this. Because he's the kind of person who is very willing to do the things that allow him to dodge the debt. And so he does. And this is just a cope to make it possible ethically for him to do it. He probably considers himself, he probably isn't a total psychopath. He probably has some degree of empathy, or could do. In which case, this is the cope he needs. The idea that it don't let the number win. Reframing it as a dominance over the mind. A dominance over a sort of an idea that has more power than it should. But it's not. It's like saying money isn't real. No, technically, money isn't real. It is something that we use to represent some of the most real shit in the universe. They're called goods and services, and they're actually quite important. Money is a tool, a mental tool, that we use to make that shit work. And without it, it wouldn't work. Society wouldn't work. Yeah, there's some forms of society that can work without money, but small and short-lived ones, or horrible ones. So yeah, that's the problem here. It's many. However, I'm not even necessarily saying legally, morally he should, but am I saying that he should just go ahead and pay the debts? Well, I'm kind of curious to see how far he can go with it, to be honest. Anyone else in chat thinking the same way? Not just as who cares that it collapsed, but you live in that thing that may collapse. You live in it. You are part of it. So yeah, I don't know if that's a good idea.
Frankly, Uzulu, I'm financially incentivized to have it collapse because that way I might, maybe, possibly be able to own a house at some point.
Mm. I think you have less chance of owning a house one day if there is a societal collapse than if there isn't. But that's not for certain.
I genuinely disagree.
The existence of Western civilization is not guaranteed. Right. Next thing. This is Hunter Biden. He's been posting on Twitter recently. I haven't seen much of it, but what I have seen is quite entertaining. It's very rare to see a member of, as they say here, the elite oligarch class posting so candidly. But then Hunter has never particularly been one for restraint, standards, ethical conduct, OPSEC, or not touching things he shouldn't, including rose holders, flower holders. Do you remember flower holders? You remember that? That was something that this is something you can buy online, which is like it's like a little metal glass tube with a sort of bulb at one end of it, and then it open at the other end. Yeah, like that. Those are little flower holders. Look it up. Biden flower holder. That's what they said it was. It's what Big Biden, the big man, said it was when Hunter was found with one, or when the footage on the laptop showed one. Flower holders, that's what they are. Yes, that's what they're sold as. They are in fact sold as flower holders. And I don't think that's what they're being used for. Hunter, however, wants us to think that he didn't do nothing, basically. This guy says, excuse me, but aren't you decidedly part of the elite oligarch class? You're the son of a career senator, former VP, and president who received the most legally overbroad pardon, which may not even be constitutional, in the history of the United States. Sounds pretty fucking elite to me. I agree. Hunter says, do I look like I'm part of the elite oligarch class? This was taken in a Super 8 motel off I-95, by the way. And it's like, yeah, well done. You slummed it for one night. Because probably the whore that you were with was cheap, or you wanted somewhere away from people, or you just happened to be there. Like, you don't always have access to elite oligarch money, but you do always have access to elite oligarch power, one way or the other, even indirectly or not immediately. You got, as he says, an extremely overbroad pardon for pretty much any crime you could ever... I think it was Hunter specifically, but either way, his father was doling them out. And anyone else upon that laptop being discovered would have faced consequences for video, image, I think at least images of him being with people of questionable age, let's just put it that way, and obviously smoking crack. 95 is the highway that in part circles DC. Yeah, so if you were going to be staying at a motel and you were part of the elite oligarch class, he probably stayed at like the one most likely hotel, motel. Do we have the concept of motel? I don't think we have that here. We have like Travelodge cheap hotels, but they're actually quite good. I've stayed at them they're actually quite nice. They're not a problem with them at all. I've seen in movies American motels and they do not look nice. It was not a Motel 6. He is not a real nigga. I don't know what the difference is. Holiday Inn is another one that we have here. Real term is a glass dick. He looks like the kind of guy that would blow any kind of dick. Yeah, no matter what it's made of. Travel lodges in the UK are nice despite being cheap. Same with Holiday Inn. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's odd. Travelodge is better than Premier Inn in my opinion. I haven't been to enough of them to compare, but having been to both of them at some points, they're both fine. Not to get anything like the American motel. Yeah, I guess it's maybe it's population density or infrastructure density or whatever. If there was, there are a few places that are very rural here, like the New Forest, but I don't think there's any like motels out in the middle of that, like little shitty hotels. I mean, you find like maybe a bed and breakfast, though these days those would all be what's it fucking called? That B&B, Airbnb. They'd all be that. But then the same idea. But that would be like in someone's house. I guess sometimes someone may have outfitted a particular building. If it's in somewhere remote, a particular building with Airbnb rooms, that's probably about the closest you could get to a motel here. But that's probably very rare. I've never heard of one. Aiden says Travelodge and Holiday Inn are better than Premier. Which is ironic given the name. But I have not... I don't remember them well enough to compare. Still some actual B&Bs about. I can think of one near me. Yeah, I'm sure that there are. I don't want to force any sort of modernization or push them into something like that, but they probably would get more business if they did use Airbnb, even as just an option. Then again, if I was running Airbnb and I wanted to be an arse, but to guarantee people use my service, I'd make it impossible for the people who run B&Bs through the service to say, we've got someone staying in this room right now, so that you have to use the app to book everything. I suspect Airbnb have not done that because that would be a bit too far. Like, what if a family member's staying or something? You need to check that into the system rather than get it double booked with some punter. But that would be the dick move that would ensure business stays on the platform or everyone leaves the platform. Yes, Nachos, punter. Have you not heard the term punter before? Is that new to you? Oh, no. You have many English traditions and slang to learn, including beans on cheesecake. Chat, any British people will appreciate this, but some Americans may understand this as well. I am the only person I know who prefers off-brand ketchup. Yes, that's right. Heinz ketchup is, to me, less nice than the Bramwell's off-brand ketchup, which I prefer. Some of you may know what this means, but Aiden says you're fucked in the head. Why do you say that, Aiden? Well, to be fair, right, if I was going to the ketchup repair shop and they were charging me 10 grand a bottle, then I'd be fucked in the head. Chat, press 1 if we should hold this over Aiden's head a little bit. For those of you that weren't there last night won't know what this is about, but those of you who were, take Aiden's word for it.
Elaborate, please.
Aiden, would you like us to elaborate? No, it's not, Aiden. It's nice.
I was mostly just pissed off. I was like fucking flabbergasted and pissed off and trying and coping and seething, okay? That I've basically been ripped off, dude. Yeah, it's really fucking
basically. I saw the fucking diagnosis.
Look, I needed to
believe what I was seeing.
If
it's time to fucking process it, okay? Like,
if it is as described, as it appears, it's the biggest scam that I have personally encountered from anyone I've known. By far. It's insane, Aiden. You were charged 10x the price of those products new, and they were very used. And that's what it sounds like. Now, I don't know for sure, but that's what it sounds like. You have hardware that is less powerful than my PC, and your PC cost about 10 times as much overall. I don't know how this
I
looked
back
happened.
through it again, and then I have still the receipt on the PC when I bought it. And so I was like looking back through that stuff and yeah, they have replaced it with objectively, demonstrably worse parts. I don't understand.
You need to sue them.
Oh, you checked through the receipts?
I mean, I have the description of it from when I bought it, so I don't know. At least what it said on the website, right? So maybe the website was wrong and they sold me bullshit. So it's one thing or the other.
Aiden, the website where you bought it won't have listed the wrong hardware. Which did you use a boutique? Was it like CyberPower or
CyberPower? Yeah,
CyberPower.
CyberPower PC.
I think I've either used them before. Or I've known people that have. They're fine. Whatever they said your specs are. What graphics card did they give you? Because you've ended up with a 1660 Ti, which is like a 5-year-old or more, I think, mid-range card. What did you start with?
I think it's over 6 years old.
No, I would have probably bought a mid-range card when I got it 6 years ago. It's a 6-year-old computer.
But what card did you? Oh, okay. Well, what had been downgraded then?
Let me go get it.
Yeah,
'cause I don't have it in
it
front of
was
me.
released in 2019. It's a fucking 7 years old card.
So
2019.
for those who don't know, brief intermission for this. We were talking to Aiden yesterday about her PC, and she was insisting, I say, that PC hardware only lasts 6 months, and then you have to replace it. Well, this is weird to us because almost all PC hardware will last you at least 5 years, if not 10, sometimes more. All of mine tends to. Very rare that it doesn't. And so, but she kept insisting, and Aiden has a special way of getting stuck in a way of thinking that is in some way easier for her, but is worse in many ways sometimes. In this sense, definitely for the case. We were sort of running through a little bit of diagnosis, but it was difficult. There were a lot of us talking, so it ended up not going very far. Then I had to go briefly for some other issue. But while I was gone, the diagnosis continued. I believe it was John Wick Returns in the server was the main person asking the real questions. Asked Aiden to do a check of her hardware, of what her specs are, and it came back with surprisingly bad specs for how much she said that she spent on it. Further investigation while I was still away continued, and it turned out that what's probably happened is every time Aiden had a problem with her PC, she's gone to the local PC repair shop, the same one each time, told them about it, either left the PC with them or they've done something with it or whatever. And what they've done is they've gradually replaced all of her components with worse parts that they just had lying around that were cheap, taken her good parts out of it, sold them probably or used them for something else, and then charged her like 10 times the price of the component they've given her that was, if it was new, but it wasn't. And so those components tend not to last as long. Maybe they do only last about 6 months each. And this had been happening. This is what seems to have been happening for, almost probably the entire time she's been in Guernsey, maybe 5 or 6 years. She bought the PC around that time, around 5 or 6 years ago. And what it seems like has been happening is that these vultures have just been picking bits out of it and making it shittier over time. Every time there's a problem with it, and charging her through the nose for it. And I don't know how it took so long for anyone to notice. But there you go. I don't think anyone around here would have been able to figure it out because we didn't know what Aiden's specs were. But the reason I didn't immediately question or consider that this was a possibility, I actually did think maybe they're ripping her off, but it was like a distant possibility. It was not something I assumed was likely because Aiden said she trusted these people. I think someone she knows them personally. And it turns out that may have been a bad idea. It's similarly to the case of Aiden's Google account being hacked. There's some degree to which I can't blame her if she was told these people are trustworthy and she doesn't know much about computers herself. But still though, Aiden, when we were telling you, no, that's not normal, please next time don't tell us, no, it is normal. I'm just gigafucked and I really like it being normal because that allows me to be really depressed about the world and plan obsolescence, even though everyone I know and the internet's telling me it's not true. Just try to be a little open-minded. Yeah, and honestly, if that's what's happened, and we need to be sure that's what's happened, but if that's what's happened, that is a dead easy, I would estimate, lawsuit. You are owed thousands. All the modern bird woman knows is lie, eat hot chip, and be depressed. True. But hey, if you're going to be depressed, why not make it everyone's problem? So it's fine. This is really expensive, yes, but so was the PC, and they should pay for it in both senses of the term. At the very least, Aiden, there's got to be an option. I think there's not my area of expertise, but I think there's small claims court. Is that a thing? That's something. I think that's a UK concept. That might be applicable here, but it's thousands. It's not that small. Fire is cheap. They have to pay for it, Aiden, one way or the other. I'm not, maybe I shouldn't word it like that after Zenman just said fire is cheap. I'm not recommending firebombing the PC repair place. Most of chat will. If I say press 1 to recommend firebombing the PC repair shop. I think most people will. Doesn't show the live chat call on live stream anymore. This is YouTube playing safe thing. Sort of. I was gonna try that for a while, see if it made any difference. So far, it isn't making any difference. I don't necessarily need a lawsuit, as it seems to be a criminal case, as it violates consumer rights protections. Okay, interesting.
I have to admit, the idea of firebombing a shop that is repeatedly and consistently gaslit and stole from me does seem quite appealing.
Yeah. It's remarkable. Like, all this time when Aiden would express the price of her PC, I'd think, oh shit, it must be really good. And it turns out the specs of it were less powerful than mine, which it needs upgrading.
Didn't you say you do 4K editing with that? You couldn't fucking pay me to do
Yeah, I do.
with that setup.
So 9700F.
Yeah.
9700F, which is the lowest i7 from
I also
about
can't find the
5 or
thing I
6
was
years
looking at
ago.
before.
And not even overclockable, the F variant.
No,
And
I
then,
paid like 3,500 for it. 3,500, 4,000 in that vicinity. Because it was
What, just for the-
expensive to ship.
Just for the CPU, or what,
no,
for
no,
the whole?
no, for the well, yeah, because when I moved here, I didn't have a PC.
Well, it might be that the original
That's
PC that you
outrageous.
bought from Cyber Buy Power or whatever it is, it might be that was worth the price if you bought something really
It
good,
worked
which you probably
great
did.
when I first got it. When I first
Yeah, I
got it,
bet.
It worked amazing. It was awesome.
Probably what happened, Aiden, is it was working great, and then as happens with PCs, it sort of the software degraded and it started to get a bit laggy. So you took it in to get it refreshed because that you're not that good at tech that you would be able to refresh it properly yourself, and they started stealing from you from that moment.
Well, I mean, I was just taking it in to have it routinely cleaned and stuff, professionally, and that kind of thing. Yeah.
You don't really need to physically clean your PC. You don't really need to.
Well, it gets all dusty and stuff,
You don't really need to physically clean it. So I'm not saying it's a bad idea. It's a good idea too, but it's not really necessary. It's fairly negligible. But what you do need
I
to
started to
do
notice problems with it though. About maybe
but don't assume what's causing it. Ask someone who knows. What you do need to do, however, is clean the software occasionally, especially if you're on Windows. And that actually, at the peak of my cavalier usage of Windows, was every 6 months or so. I was doing like a full reset of stuff. Thank you, Killdozer. I will have Chris Chan read that out in a sec. But yeah, every 6 months, maybe a year. But the physical PC cleaning, not really necessary.
Well, no, I meant like both. Have it physically
Yeah.
cleaned, have it just like looked over and stuff.
Yeah.
And then there started to just be constant problems with it, and it started being like, basically at some point it just became every 6 months. It'd basically be like a catastrophic failure, and to this day it's like maybe sometimes it's 3, but yeah.
Yeah.
But then
Aiden,
you
if,
have so much to keep repairing it that it makes it difficult to afford a new one.
If that was me, I would have bloodlust, and it takes a lot for me to get bloodlust for the people that did that. They have not just scammed you. The scam was vicious and cruel and extremely opportunistic, very brazen. I'm shocked that they weren't caught earlier, and you need to make them pay.
Just gonna buy a new computer for him. Oh no.
Go ahead and once again, Aiden, completely ignore our advice. It didn't work out very well last time.
I'm saying that there's nothing I can really do.
Yes, there is. I don't know what it is,
I would
but I'm
imagine
sure that there is. Seraph says, what were you having Windows do that you need to clean your system? Windows 10, 11 is trash, but not that trash. This is years ago. This would be Windows 7, most likely. I don't know. I was doing all kinds of shit with it around that time. Kaiser says, do modern PCs require defrags? Theoretically, yes, if it's a hard drive. SSDs not so much, but hard drives, the random read speed is much slower than an SSD because you've got to have the actual head, the read head, move around the platters, which takes a lot more time than an SSD random read. What happens with defrag is that a single file that you write to the disk, it can be written to a contiguous block of free space, or sometimes there's not enough free space, so it has to find little blocks of free space across the disk and just write it across all of them, which means that in order to read that file, it has to do a bunch of random reads, which is much slower, rather than if it was contiguous, it would just do one contiguous read, which is faster on a hard drive. It's actually quite fast to do contiguous reads on hard drives. So defragging makes the drive much faster because you take all the split files and make them contiguous by just doing all of them. So it's a good idea to defrag, even today with hard drives. Depending on what kind of system you're on, it might do some of that automatically. I have found actually that ZFS, despite being, quote, the last word in file systems, and it is very good in many ways, isn't great at handling defragging. But it's, it's okay, but I definitely wish it was a bit better. All right.
Killdozer for £5 says, just for safety's sake, I must tell the Uzalu stream that I am not currently available for sale. So
Do you mean the vehicle? I assume the vehicle is not available for sale. Did he have a stroke, asks Stucksmith? Yes, he did. By the way, cheer 50. That's all that it would cost, 50 Uza coins, to have a message read out by the wonderful Christopher Chan. Chat, should I press 1 if I should feel bad about using Chris Chan's voice without permission? And press 2 if him raping his mother is is enough that I shouldn't feel bad about it. I think I've asked this before. Allegedly raping his mother. Allegedly.
I have another alternative. Press 3 if Uzalu should feel bad for subjecting Chris Chan, for subjecting all of us to Chris Chan.
There are other voices that we can use. Let me whip this open.
God, there are no 3s. Jesus Christ.
You know what? It looks like everyone loves Chris Chan's voice. I guess we're sticking with that then. Okay.
Hey.
What other voices are there? There was one that I found funny, but other people didn't for some reason. There's literally just like a classic British football announcer voice, which I thought was quite funny, but apparently not. There's also a serial killer. There's Boris Johnson. There's a squeaky, annoying, like, feminine man. And then there's Squeagle. Squeagle is quite special. Ginger, would you like to hear Squeagle?
Go on.
No, not quite. Okay, Squeagle is now active. If someone does a cheer 50, it will now be read out with Squeagle's voice. And if for some reason that doesn't work properly, then I'll... might not be able to reset it, actually. If it doesn't work properly, then I'll just send in my own one. Thank you, Nachos. Let's see what that sounds like. I hope this saved to the right place.
HR Lady Nachos for 50 says, Uzalu is a cunt.
That's Squeagle.
That is considerably less irritating than Chris Chan's voice.
Really? Okay. Well, there is Squeagle. She sounds kind of vaguely Hispanic and female, so fitting that Nachos was the one that sent in the contribution. Do you have any recommendations for which voice you'd like us to use then, Seraph? Does Baz of the North have a canon voice? Any voice, literally any, that you can find on 11 Labs, I can use. Just copy the ID and send it to me. Okay, shall we try and cover something? Okay, we can come back to all this stuff. Yeah, Coke Hunter. Yes, very funny. And then here's Hunter drawing greatest president, but it's not real Trump posted it, it's AI. Anyway, let's talk about Tony. I remember from my youth that Tony Blair was well regarded by many. And the reason that he was well regarded by many is because he was just sort of like the man of the moment. He was the boring bureaucrat that seemed to benefit the system as it currently was. And he was successful because he sort of just slid down that gilded path. Wasn't trying to do anything particularly special, just trying to make it more bureaucratic. I think maybe it's just exactly what the gathering winds of technocratic power wanted at the time. was someone of his exact nature. The idea that he earned the success himself, that his ideas were good for a nation, I don't think there's any validity to it. I think the idea is, in fact, that his ideas were good for other non-national entities, and he paved the way for the anti-nationalization of every nation in the world, or anti-nationization, I guess, where they're instead very cosmopolitan to their detriment. So yeah, generally speaking, not a big fan. The Iraq War thing is a blip compared to the bigger issue, but that's Tony. And since then, something odd has happened. Back in the 90s, when he was PM, he looked kind of normal, almost aggressively normal, one might say. Now he looks like a fucking demon. I don't know exactly how it's happened, but his face has dropped into evil, and maybe it's the evil. I don't know. But he sure looks evil. Chat, press 1 if you think there's a distinct possibility that acting evil can make you look more evil over time. I'm not sure about this. I think it's possible. Of course, you'd have to define evil, but I think it's possible.
Roald Dahl demonstrated this quite handily.
I've seen the picture you're talking about. I'm not sure I completely agree with him, but it's an interesting idea. They all look like demons, as Nachos. A lot of them do, yeah, a lot of them do. Some of them don't, though. Be careful of the ones that don't. But yes, a lot of them do. So, Tony, old Tone here, often known as the Dark Lord, which given his extremely evil-looking face and his still remaining position of high influence, kind of makes sense to call him the Dark Lord. So I expect I will refer to him as that throughout this. He has written a scathing document, article, report, essay against the Labour Party. Now, some of you may remember, if you've been paying attention, kids, you'll remember the Labour Party was the party he ran back in the late 90s and early 2000s. But he doesn't run it anymore. Or does he? Well, that's been a question of some debate, whether Starmer is his man. Well, it doesn't seem like he is anymore, if he was. He says the Labour Party is playing with fire over its future and the future of the country. Yes, but this was true for years. This is not necessarily a new development. It may be worse now than it was in the past, but still. He's against the Starmer Reich, which still persists, regardless. It's approaching the 40-day, or what was it, 49 or something day mark of how long Liz Truss lasted in total. This is just the time that Starmer is lasting when no one wants, literally no one in the country, I'm pretty sure, wants him there, except some right-wing shitposters. They are his primary supporters at this point. Who the fuck else wants him there? I don't really understand how he still is, but he is. And to be honest, despite how almost every policy decision he's made has been shit, and how even his claims to fame on reducing net migration actually being because so many people are fleeing the country who are actually British, just despite all this, the most based thing he has ever done, and something that I can actually respect, is say fuck you to the rest of his party and stay in power, even though no one wants him there. And Tony doesn't either, as it turns out. There's speculation early on that he was the working with Tony, he was Tony's man, and maybe he was, but he sure isn't now, so it seems. So. Here we have it. Thank you to no one for mentioning that this exists. We will probably not read the whole thing because it is a very long document. We'll read at least some of it. And here's the fantastic part. Old Starmerator has actually responded. It's like early YouTube response videos. He actually responded. Tony Blair may not like my plan. You have never given me the impression, Starmer, that you have any semblance of a plan. Never mind. He says it's changing Britain for the better. What, by getting rid of the British? Yeah, thanks, Starmer. One way or another, I guess. So let's read a bit of old Tone's document. Now, this is on the Institute Dr. Global, which I think is Tony's NGO. It's a quote-unquote NGO. Written by Tony Blair. So, that doesn't look right, does it? Let's see if it didn't look like that before. Okay, that's better. He says the Labour Party is playing with fire. No, that's the Ukrainian rent boys. But never mind. Maybe they support Labour ultimately, just not its current leader.
Reno de Linda is Kaiserhold for 50 says Hunter for God Emperor.
I mean, you probably could literally do worse, but it would be a bit of a struggle. You'd have to go to India. Thank you, though, Squeagle and Kaiserhold for the input. He says Labour Party is playing with fire, or more accurately, with its future and that of the country. This is not news, except Tony. He says, I led the Labour Party for 13 years and through 3 general elections. It is a party largely of decent, well-meaning people who want the best for the country, he says. Those very people that you refer to there, I would say a lot of them are very naive. Because if they're in the leftist party, especially these days, then they are not actually working towards what's best for the country. Now, I've not always been, as I am probably now, right-wing. I've not always been this way. But the winds of the times do change one's view as necessary, as one must adjust to the times. And of course, I've learned a lot since I was more on the left. Right now, the Western world desperately needs more actually right-wing policies, not the sort of like crass, just barely right-wing policies, or the giving up stuff, the stuff that, we can still do quote-unquote right-wing things whilst being globalist and maintaining all the existing plans that those with power want but that benefit no one else. No, no. How about no? We can't do those anymore. They haven't worked and they aren't working and we need something else. That's what we're sort of aiming for. That's what we need desperately at this point, the Western world itself. But yes, it's not necessarily always the right set of policies, but it is right now. Absolutely, it is right now. He goes on. Its mission is, as its 1994 rewritten constitution says, and he says this, but I'm pretty sure he helped rewrite it, but I might be mistaken on that.
He personally rewrote it, I think.
It is to ensure that. Do you want to come on to into the stream hosts, by the way, no one?
Well, regarding this, sure.
Okay. Because you were talking about this a lot. I think you've looked into a lot of it. Welcome.
Part of it, yes.
It says. Go on.
No. I was just.
Its 1984 rewritten constitution says to ensure that power, wealth, and opportunity are in the hands of the many, not the few. And it's a perfectly noble one, he says. And there's some aspects of that are noble, but it can obviously go too far. It says, but I'm afraid, like many progressive parties, what happened there? That's weird. Like many progressive parties, it has an almost infinite capacity for self-delusion. It won the 2024 election not by acclaim, but by being an acceptable, credited to Keir Starmer, default option to a conservative government the country felt had behaved unacceptably. I would not word it exactly like that, but he's pretty close. I don't think Labour was necessarily even acceptable, but they were just the fallback default option for most people. I mean, it's not even that. It's just the same people that would have voted for Labour anyway did. And if the Conservative Party had not been being actively punished, they would have won. Because not many people wanted the Labour Party. It wasn't very inspiring. Keir Starmer was the worst candidate in decades. But the right wing was so united in punishing the Conservatives that he was able to win anyway. Go on.
I think some Labour politician had a good quote that I feel is applicable. That they were talking about how a Labour government that doesn't come around often, they should do as much as they can with it. Well, this is probably why.
Yeah, I feel like they don't have very much political capital. And fairly soon, probably not very many seats either. Especially if Keir pulls the trigger. It'd be so funny if he called the general election. It'd be so funny.
I don't think... I mean, yes, it would be funny, but I don't think that would be the best thing for us, realistically. I think the best thing for us would probably be to have Keir Starmer live out his term. And then lose everything in the general election.
Well, if he does call a general election, let's put aside the question of reform and restore for right now and assume that they're both better than Labour. Then one of them will win huge right now.
Yeah.
So I think any time he calls a general, it is beneficial, if that's your goal.
Well, yes, but I think, if we're taking purely the position of the Labour Party, right? What is better for the Labour Party? Calling a general election now and getting crushed, or calling a general election later when our movement, so to speak, has gained more steam and losing harder?
Well, it's not guaranteed that we'll continue gaining ground. It's possible it will recede.
It's true, but I think it's unlikely.
Stay where it is. But even in your analogy, surely him calling it early would be a good idea from his perspective. I guess that's what you're saying. It's not necessarily better for us.
Not from his perspective, but from the Labour Party's perspective, yes. But he is not an agent of the Labour Party. He's an agent of Keir Starmer.
Yeah. It is unlikely that he would call it, and he doesn't have to. He would only do it to punish the rest of his party. But it seems like at this point, if they're not going to get rid of him by now, I don't think they can. Whatever force they have to force him out, they're not able to marshal it.
I mean, the thing is, we're in a position now where none of the potential candidates that could possibly win against him are in any position to challenge him.
Yeah.
The rest of the party that really could challenge him either don't have the personality or are just so absolutely whipped by him that it's just not going to happen. So I think that he's going to win this leadership challenge race, so to speak. Or probably in the form of it never even happening in the first place. Like a internal Labour leadership election, I mean.
So a challenger has to step forward and get 20% of the Parliamentary Labour Party to support them. And then
I think
there's
81
people, okay. So the election goes to a vote involving all party members, registered supporters, and affiliated trading. Keir Starmer might not even lose that either, by the way. But whoever runs against him would have to be an MP, I think. And there's no other MP right now who has a clear win against him. The closest is fucking Ed Miliband, of all fucking people. And then, of course, you got Burnham, who's not an MP, but is trying to fast track his way into being one. But I don't think it's going to work because he has to get past an election against reform and restore to do so.
Yeah,
not very
they don't
likely.
have a safe seat, right?
Exactly. It's not very likely. So that's the only way it could happen. And I don't even if it went to an election campaign, Ed Miliband versus Starmer, I'd think Starmer's a pretty good chance actually, because Miliband is just such an embarrassing person. But Starmer, the fact that he's held in for this long might even endear him to his own party, even though some of them wanted him gone. Because it's just, that's some sort of strength, I guess. Just keep him in, why not? So, yeah.
Yes, he can strongly hold his hand gripping around the neck of the Labour Party.
Yeah, if there's an internal leadership election, he might just win it at this point within Labour. It would look very bad for them. And Burnham probably would beat him, but he's not at the point where he can challenge him. So, and there's no other way. The leader has to resign, or there has to be a formal challenge. And those are the only ways. With the Conservatives, probably the reason they cycle leaders so often is that they can do anonymous no confidence votes, which just triggers a leadership vote straight away. That happened many times. 1922 committee, I think it's called. That happened a lot of times. With Labour, it's much harder. So there's probably not going to happen. If it was going to happen, it would have already happened. At this point, he's probably going to stay where he is for a while, which is not what I predicted. It's not what Nigel predicted. To be fair, who the fuck could have seen this coming? The fact that he just refuses to leave.
You know who could have seen this coming? Keir Starmer.
Well, maybe. He had an inside track, though, on what Keir Starmer was thinking.
Okay, yeah, true.
I believe
he was never going to leave. He was never planning on. He was always planning on putting his entire term, and I don't think that anything that could have happened outside of him would have made a difference.
And that's what I mean. Like, that is pretty much the only thing I can compliment about Keir is that shows a kind of strength.
He is impervious.
Impervious to his own people attacking it. Well done, Keir. You have the most useless superpower. What would that be in fairy tale? Is there anyone there whose magic is that they can't be hurt by their friends, but is constantly attacked by them anyway? This sounds like some kind of fairy lore. All right, there was a petition here to call a general election. Yeah, plenty of good arguments here. 219,000 signatures. It's not going to happen. I'm not saying like these petitions rarely get even noticed. Even if they are discussed, they don't do anything. So it's good that this exists, but it's a shame they don't do more. Ultimately, it is still representatives making the decisions. But if there was a general election, it was never going to be the result of something the public wanted. It was never going to be like this. It was always going to be something the politicians did because of political reasons. So if it does happen, it'll be that. It'll be personal conflicts up at the top. All right, let's continue with Tone's article. However, he says, partly because of the intellectual wasteland of the Corbyn years, which is a pretty strong statement, but Corbyn was more popular than Keir Starmer, it had no properly thought through analysis of how the world was changing and what that meant for policy. Now, I think the issue with politics, particularly with Labour, but also with the Conservatives, is even though the Conservatives said most of the right things for the last 10 years, they didn't have any will to do anything that would allow their party to change with the times. Even though they knew what it would take, they wanted to just stay almost completely static. Now, whether everyone involved wanted to, where exactly the corruption lies there, as I would call it corruption, I don't know. I don't think all the leaders were just like evil connivers from the start, but again, for many reasons, it's more practical to assume they were. However, they may not have been, but it doesn't really matter. They still didn't do what they said they would do. And if it's those leaders in particular, then, well, the kind of person who becomes leader of the Conservative Party can't be trusted. And if it's the party infrastructure, then the party can't be trusted ever. And so that's sort of the punishment that I think people came to the conclusion of. There's no way to trust them. After many attempts, and Labour didn't even do that well. They don't even seem to know what it would take to change into something more suitable for the times. Wes Streeting, it says, is a huge political talent. And Andy Burnham was an outstanding member of my government, he says. But this leadership debate has an extraordinarily retro 20th century feel to it. Like most politicians, they're anxious to distance themselves from the Westminster bubble. But Britain's problem isn't with a Westminster bubble, it's with a politics bubble. There's probably some truth to that. He says the politics of the future may be better understood by those presently outside politics. It's not like that was... maybe that's less pronounced in the past, but I believe the original...
It's always the case, no?
I think to some extent, yeah. I think the original ideal of democracy, like where it first emerged in someone's head, the reason they thought it might work is, every area will choose an exemplary individual to be their representative. And they will go, take some time out of their day, they will go and represent people. That's not what ended up happening at all. Because someone who spends their entire time and their entire life focusing on doing one particular thing is going to specialize at that more than someone who has to, have other skills and talent and be good at something and then occasionally do politics. That's why the idea of a career politician is controversial, and I understand why. It's also why I considered the possibility of some hybrid or perhaps a largely lottery-based politics system. I think the idea has some merit, but it would have many complications. But the idea of, it's part of the reason why term limits exist, but they don't exist everywhere in politics. And even when you remove one individual, it's an entire class, literally bred that way to a large extent. And so that ideal is not how it ended up happening, because the lowest energy state of the system is career politicians. And a system that doesn't adapt to how it's used is going to be weaker. Now, I am very willing to criticize democracy. I do believe it is marginally the best choice, but very willing to criticize it, and that is a criticism of it. So, yeah, I believe that has always been the case, but probably more and more over time. Perhaps the issue is that the classes of the world are getting further away from each other. Thank you. I'll be there in a sec. In that your upper classes are becoming either just wealthier or just integrating into an international upper class. That the working classes are still national, the middle classes are shrinking, and the upper classes are elevating to international upper class, a single international upper class with no national allegiances. This is a catastrophic arrangement. And for that reason, anyone who is in the elite is so far removed from what the average person wants and needs that someone who is not a career politician is, even if it's an idiot, for example, Trump, who is in some senses an idiot, is likely to be a better man for the job. I expect there are many other times in history where that's been the case, though. He says, the world is turning on its axis, and today's politicians living in a 24/7 pressure cooker have barely time to recognize the turning, let alone study it. These changes need long-term strategic thinking, which is alien to the way most modern democracies function. The government's principal problem isn't Keir's personality or a failure to communicate our achievements, or a need to assert more strongly Labour's values. It is because we don't have a worked-out, coherent plan for the country in a fast-changing world and are in the wrong political position from which we can devise one and win a second term. That is, I believe, a part of the problem, yes.
I do love his slightly sarcastic, cheeky use of quotes in this.
That's the kind of thing, though, that the sort of marketing psychology poisoned bland, bureaucratic, nothing people of the Labour Party today, and of most politics, and of most fucking things today, would say, though. We just need to communicate our achievements and our values. No, you need to have something useful to offer people.
Well, for one, you need to have values.
Exactly. Well, they have, quote, values. They just don't have any value. That's the problem.
I mean, they're values, but they're not values.
Do you miss me yet? Oh, wait, I'm still PM. I will file a form with the UK Civil Service to delay this tip until 2029. Vote Labour.
Thank you, Lord Protector Keir. Yes, sorry. What were you saying? I didn't mean to interrupt.
Full force. And I was finishing, but I could feel in that statement the full force of the law.
Right, where was I? Man, Beetlejuice sucked. Anyway, the government is governing from an essentially traditionally Labour soft-left position, he says, parked firmly in the party's comfort zone. Now, anyone that says that the Labour Party of today is too leftist, I would disagree as soft left. There's things they've done that have been more socialist, but it's not as socialist as Corbyn would want. or as McDonald would want, or as some others in the party would want. It is the problem with the Labour Party today is not that it's too far left, though it still is. That's not the main issue. The main issue is that it's too far nowhere. It's just being cast around by the winds, and the most powerful winds of today are globalists.
I mean, I think, well, what Blair is complaining about here principally is essentially a divergence from the Fabianist roots of the socialist movement inside the Labour Party. And he's essentially saying you're not managing the decline well enough. You're being too fast and sloppy.
Yeah, you mentioned that. As I read through, I'll try and see if I agree, but you may already be right.
Mm-hmm.
Kaiser says, I like how honest the old symbol of the Fabian society was. I'm not familiar with it. All right. Whenever there is leadership change, he says, whether there is leadership change or not is irrelevant if it doesn't start with a policy debate. Are we really prioritizing economic growth essential not just for prosperity but for social justice, he says. If there is a slew of policies we're implementing which might restrict it, does our economy need right now the goal of clean energy or cheap energy? How do we justify adding to the welfare bill when it is already ballooning? Taxes are high and getting higher, and we're told we have to increase defense spending to prepare for the possibility of war. What you've listed there, Tony, are some perfectly reasonable concerns. I wouldn't come at them from a leftist perspective, but perfectly reasonable concerns. The idea of clean energy versus cheap energy. Yeah, obviously cheap energy is the priority right now. I think we have some of the most expensive energy in the world, at least for a developed country. The economic growth, it's quite important actually. And doing all this strangulation that the current Labour Party is doing in the economy, yeah, it's actually not good for anyone or anything. It may increase tax takings in the short term, but in the long term, it's going to radically decrease them because no one's earning as much. And people who are earning or innovating are leaving in many cases. And the welfare thing and everything else is the same. We do need to spend more on the military. We can't afford to. Very few countries can right now. He says, and is it right that we're living through the 21st century equivalent of the 19th century industrial revolution? And if so, are we remotely meeting the scale of that challenge? And what are the opportunities in areas like health and education for transformative change consequent on this revolution and the existential danger of this revolution when quite soon someone sitting in their front room could hack into vital national infrastructure and bring it down?
This is where you kind of see when he's got a little bit of one shot, just a little bit.
Maybe. But the thing is, the front room that they would be in, hacking into vital national infrastructure, could probably only be in China. And not because the Chinese are good at hacking, necessarily, but because idiots in the West, and this really does take stupidity, install things from China without checking them in national infrastructure.
Well, I think you'll see that I read this as him speaking, alluding to artificial intelligence. Because of what he said later in the essay.
AI doesn't provide this. AI may make it easier. And there's been a lot of hype around Claude Mythos, but whenever it's been tested and benchmarked, it's not like categorically hugely far ahead of everything else. It's just a bit farther ahead. And it likely won't be for very long.
He thinks it does.
Yeah. Well, AI does make this stuff easier, but not necessarily because it's smarter. Just because it can work for longer without motivation and over stuff that other people would find boring. If it can work over code where 99.9% of what it finds is fine, but 0.1% might be a CVE, then would a human bother with that? That's just a workload that very few humans would do. But AI, you can just set it going and it'll just fucking do it. No problem at all. Well, it costs money, but money isn't the problem, in this case for the people that we're talking about here. So it does make some aspects of hacking easier, but ultimately, and I I thought this even before AI was on the scene. Ultimately, AI doesn't have any magic powers when it comes to hacking. It's able to find exploits in a way that is possibly faster and better than humans, but more so it augments human ability for that right now. But it still has to use actual exploits, faults and flaws that people have coded into their systems. It has to find them and use them. It can't just magically break through. And if I asked a little while ago, I asked someone in Cabal, how long do you think it'll be before someone gives an AI access to a command line, which would allow them to run commands from a computer, which would then allow them to access the network, to communicate with the outside world, use these exploits, spread itself around the internet, and then take over the whole world? How long do you think it is until someone gives it access to a command prompt? And they said, I don't know, maybe a year. And the reality is that they've had millions of them have had access to millions of command prompts for several years around the world. I could do it myself locally. I haven't, and I won't, but anyone could do it. It's been happening for several years now. They've had access to command. It's only become really quite popular in the last year, but that's normal. And it hasn't happened. So yes, I think you probably are correct that he's been kind of one-shot by the AI hype. But that's a primer for you, chat. Let's continue reading. He says, do we have a foreign policy which makes sense of a changing world order? Ooh. When Tony starts talking about world orders.
I think you'll like the title of the next section.
He says, trying to force the Prime Minister out before we know what policy direction we're bringing in is not a serious way of conducting ourselves. That's a high bar, Tony. That's a high bar to aim for these days. You expect the idiots you have in charge right now not to just grasp at power, not knowing what they'd fucking do with it. They actually, they're the rats jumping onto the sinking ship because the sinking ship is still right now technically afloat. And so far, he says, though of course, these are very early days, we have a fight between a modernizing wing of the Labour Party appearing to advocate rejoining the EU, and now equalizing capital gains and income tax, something rejected by successive governments for good reason, and the alternative, which thinks the answer is moving even further left on taxes, spending and welfare, spun with a rehash of the far left critique about nothing good coming out of the last 40 years of neoliberalism, which presumably includes the last Labour government. He says, well, I'm sure that you wouldn't appreciate them because they would challenge your legacy. The more sort of hard left socialists who disagree with neoliberalism as well, they and I have that in common, but that's about it. Corbyn and I have a few things in common politically. I believe he's even a pretty strong Eurosceptic, but he is a big-time socialist, which I'm not. But he is skeptical of neoliberalism because to him, it's a right-wing ideology. Of course, to me, it's a left-leaning ideology, or perhaps they are completely non-left or right, but they use the left almost exclusively, and so they look more left.
I mean, neoliberalism strikes me as a complacent ideology that is just kind of does whatever the fuck is the current thing to perpetuate things like the military-industrial complex.
So yes, both of these positions that he is describing here are probably untenable, especially rejoining the EU. And those are the options that Labour has. Well, the right has spent the last 10 years reorganising itself into the point now where we have two parties in the UK, Restore and Reform, which are pretty popular with the right, with the actual people of the right. And the policy suggestions they have, to not go into too much detail, are at least in the right direction. The left currently seems to not have that, where even if one or the other of these two camps among the leftist politicians is popular, which I'm not sure they are, because they're not getting many votes, they are definitely not in the right direction and would both be worse, probably, than Starmer. Now, I've said before that if you put someone into a position of power, premiership, in a first world country who just does nothing. If you put a stone or a dog, a dog would be the best choice to be honest, in charge of a country, they'd probably be better than the average neolib or globalist leader, because the globalists and neolibs are actively making things worse by just sort of floating along with the globalist direction. But a dog or a stone would not put into effect any policies, so it would just stay exactly as bad as it is without getting worse. And that might be better relatively. Now, Keir Starmer is comparatively, he's the stone compared to the two parties, the two sections of the Labour Party that Tony's describing here. They would make things actively and quickly worse. Starmer, relatively speaking, is just staying still. In fact, he's not. He's moving slightly with the globalists, but that's making things worse. But not as bad as these people would. With the left position, odds on to win. I guess that means the socialist position. Well, I mean, they tried it in 2019-ish with Corbyn, and the public don't like it. Corbyn is, to give him his due, he's not... there's not a lot about him as a person that makes him untenable for leadership. He's reasonably he's kind of like Bernie, politically a bit different, but he's got the same vibe. Like, there's definitely things politically about him that make him unelectable. But that's the thing. He didn't have any significant arbitrary disadvantages. It's not like you can just swap out Corbyn for some other socialist and suddenly you get elected. The public don't want socialism. Even in the UK.
The public doesn't want Labour.
Well, right now, no.
I don't think it's about the public anymore. I think it's about the internal politics. I think it is sufficiently probably contentious inside of the party that they're frenzied to a certain extent. Perhaps ignoring to their own detriment the wishes of the outside people.
Yeah. It seems like they are...
for the internal conflict.
Yeah. It seems like one section...
I do agree with Blair that I do think the lefties in the party will win. But
yeah,
I don't think that they will win outside.
No. The two sections of the party appear to be the one which is engaged with trying to normalize with the rest of the world, which is a source of power, and the other, which is just ideological. Neither of them will actually make the country better. But then any left-wing camp that would, if there was a hypothetical left-wing policy set that would make things better, if there was a hypothetical one, which I'm not sure there is, they wouldn't be popular enough. Because anything that might improve things would be associated with the right at this point. So they'd never get successful in Labour. He says it's one thing when in opposition to indulge this perennial delusion that when we lose seats to the right, the country is really signalling it wants Labour to move left. It is dangerous to do it in government, says Tony. Yeah. He says, no one was more passionately opposed to Brexit than I was, he says, and the result of it was both predictable and predicted. The only thing about it that was predictable and predicted was that the politicians who we entrusted to utilize this amazing opportunity failed. We are still awaiting, well, arguably, we are still awaiting a politician who will actually take advantage of Brexit. We are still awaiting the opportunity to see it come to fruition. Right now, it is just being repeatedly, consistently squandered. It has not yet been tested. That's right. Real Brexit has never been tried. We did the on-paper Brexit, and then no one used it. It just let it lie there. Even though there were many opportunities, none of them actually tried to. It goes on, but as I shall argue later in this essay, he says an approach for Britain is to go back into a structured relationship with Europe needs to be handled with care and with strategy, he says. It's not a good idea right now. It's possible that some sort of structured relationship could work in future, but not with the EU in its current state, not with Europe in its current state. The whole setup of the EU is distinctly undemocratic. It cannot work in its current form, I don't think. It goes on. Just as Brexit was... the only argument then to be in the EU is to attempt to influence the large economy right at our doorstep. And that is actually the best argument to be in the EU. But I don't think it's good enough if we take advantage of Brexit. If we're just going to leave the EU and do nothing with that, and then lose our influence over Europe as well, that's the worst of all worlds. If we leave and take advantage of it, then that's fine. Should be the best option overall. Optimistic to assume that we'd be able to. And maybe we still will. He says, just as Brexit was never the answer to Britain's challenges back in 2016, he says, reversing it isn't the answer to the country's far worse situation in 2026. You are at least correct on that. Well done, Tony. He says, our relationship with Europe should be part of a comprehensive strategy in Britain's future, and that doesn't begin with Europe, but here at home. Tony would be a better Labour leader than Starmer, assuming that he's not just completely lying here, but he's...
It sounds to me like he's saying things which is like, yes, we need to do better, and it needs to be comprehensive. I don't think he knows what he'd do.
Well, maybe not, but he at least knows that the general strategy running right now is completely useless and even counterproductive. And he also is not a socialist. So even though he is the Dark Lord and he was one of my last choices for leader, he'd still be better than Starmer, I think. Yeah, some of what he's saying here is salient and fair. The thing is, most of his policy stuff comes from the 90s, where things were a bit more practical. Occasionally, politicians did things that made sense back then.
I mean, this reads as the laments of a pragmatist.
Yeah. He says, unfortunately, to the exam question, how do we win a second term of government? The only answer which seems ruled out is learning from the only time in the party's 120-year history it has ever done so. Really? Wow. What? Your term? It's interesting. His governments which succeed don't start with a personality contest or a political question, as in, how do we save the country from reform, he says. They start with an idea, a project, a governing purpose, an analysis of what is wrong, and a plan to put it right. And even though I don't think Tony's plan back in the late 90s, early 2000s was particularly good, he did have a sort of a vision that did inspire people a little bit, even though it was a really sort of boring vision. There were aspects of it that, for politics at the time, it was relatively fresh. So that would be a good idea. But again, like Tony, you're solving the smaller problem here. Even if you did that, the pragmatic way to save Labour is not the interesting question now. The desperate attempt to save the entire Western world from its own suicide is the question. And that's a much bigger question. And frankly, Labour doesn't have much of a part to play in it except fucking off. The challenges of democracy, he says, is not transparency, honesty, or conspiracy theories about the hidden power of elites, says the Dark Lord himself. It is efficacy, he says. Oh, look, that's interesting. Value is valuable. I haven't thought this about
Would have thought.
his entire article so far. Parts of it, yes, but that's a very bland thing to say, Tony. Transparency is a form of efficacy, potentially. Honesty can be as well. It can be effective to be honest and transparent. But if you're doing efficacy and transparency if you're doing transparency and honesty without being valuable, then yeah, you need value. There are ways to get it in the right circumstances, but that is a very bland statement. He says it's the ability to get big things done, to have leaders who are not problem managers, but problem solvers. What he is literally saying is stop managing the decline.
Complete it instead.
Well, he's not literally saying that, but perhaps he'd in fact achieve that. He says, as John Adams, second president of the US, once wrote, ballast is what I want. I totter with every breeze. This, not the absence of better communications or of a charismatic leader, has been the defining problem of the government. Too often they seem to totter in the breeze to lack ballast. There are two epochal challenges happening in the world today, one geopolitical, the other technological, and Britain is not prepared for either, he says. They require radical change in policy, system of government, and politics. It'd be very interesting to see Tony Blair return to politics with this kind of rhetoric and then be beaten by reform anyway. That'd be very funny to see. The best political space from which this can be achieved is what I call the radical centre, he says.
He's a centrist now, by the way.
Well, he thinks of himself as one. Many people do, even though they're not. But I think radical centrism
It's one of those
is
things that just sounds good to be.
I think radical centrism is a pretty dangerous idea, despite the fact that I have often considered myself a centrist in the past, and of a kind that I think is a deeper level than a lot of leftists who call themselves a centrist so that they can feel like they're normal when they're not. But I had a sort of a more directly philosophical approach to calling myself a centrist, but never mind. I did do that for a while, and radical centrism is something that I briefly considered the idea of and the potential benefit of it, but I came to the opinion, and this is part of the very centrist philosophy that I'm discussing here, which is that I'm saying a centrist party is wrong as someone who is deeply philosophically centrist. The reason is that centrism as an average between two poles is also a form of centrism. And what I believe is that the two poles are important. That a pendulum that is just standing still is useless. A pendulum that's swinging so hard it breaks off its axis is also useless. A pendulum that swings to a reasonable degree with some regularity is what a pendulum is meant to do. And the analogy would not have to be mirrored, but I believe it is, that you need people that are not too radical, but not too bland on either side, fairly radical, who have interesting new ideas, to try them out, even though they're stupid sometimes, because occasionally a few of them are good enough for a part of them to stick. And then their failures to purchase their loss to the other side's radicals who will do the same thing again. Now that's sort of a normal pattern. These days, one side's radicals have gone too fucking far. So what we need is for the pendulum to stick at one side for a short while, for a decade perhaps, to repair things. But then a bit of normalization after that. This form of centrism, by the way, is not Overton window dependent. Don't get stuck in the labels, chat. Left and right can mean different things in different circumstances. I believe that there is, depending with a few somewhat subjective definitions, but pretty good ones, you could establish a universal left-right dichotomy. But on that is what I believe we should be penduluming, and not the Overton window. And the Overton window is shifted so far left that the pendulum needs to be shifted right, so it's swinging more like that for a while. Yeah, that's what you need. So radical centrism, I believe, is very misguided. It misses the point of politics, and it is somewhat pretentious in that, an ego boost for you to be non-committal, or for you to say, yes, I have the best of both sides, whereas really, you have taken the aspects of both sides that would work so that neither side can then try them or try new ideas or produce an effect that would allow that process to continue of trying new ideas. You end up with a stagnant center where new ideas are not being produced after the good ideas you may have taken from them have been implemented or tried if you were to win. You need people to continuously come up with new ideas, but you need to converge towards better answers, not simply arrive at them. Converge constantly towards them. The centre, he said, properly defined, is where you put policy first and politics last. Isn't that a nice ideal? Unfortunately, it's never happened. So you begin with the question, what is the right answer? And only once you have that do you engage in the political task of persuading people of it. Yeah, I definitely get what he means, though. Like, there's definitely truth to the idea that if you come into politics with the assumption that, well, we've got to do the politics thing, we've got to do the thing where we convince people to vote for us, we don't know what we want or what we support, but we're just going to go ahead and convince them to vote for us, use all the marketing strategies, you get all the window dressing of real politics, of like deep politics, of trying to do something, all the window dressing and none of the content behind it. the idea is you come in with some good ideas, and then you use these strategies that have developed to try to get people to vote for you so you can do them. But Starmer, so it seems, and pretty much all the rest of Labour, either have a set of completely unworkable ideas or none at all, but they're pretty good at using these strategies. As it turns out, those marketing strategies, those modern sort of psychological affectations that political parties and corporations take up to win people over, are just small boosts. In reality, you can maybe win on those, you can coast along on those for a short time, but ultimately, as per humanity's long development, we demand something of value eventually. And we are really reaching that point in politics now. I mean, we've been at it for a while. It's just Labour had to win by fucking default. Seraph says, centrist, bisexual, agnostic, any label that doesn't pick a side is a label for someone who takes it in the ass. I'd largely agree. Not entirely, but largely. Sometimes you do need to label something as what it is, and sometimes that thing is moderate. Moderation is often the correct position, but in politics, you don't necessarily want to be a radical, but you need there to be radicals. So, yeah, and you know, being.
I'm not sure that's very, very useful.
Yeah, that might be a bit much. Being a moderate at a time where radicalism is required would be more irresponsible even than being an extremist at such time. This is potentially everything in moderation except moderation. That's pretty good, yeah. Sig Puppy says people should be voting for parties promising a Holocaust 2.0 or TND. I think that's not quite the solution. That's not quite the problems we need to solve. Like, you are correct that there are racial identity issues across the entire Western world. But just solving them doesn't solve everything else. And it's not necessary to genocide to solve them either. The West won't go for it, man. You gotta come up with policies that people will actually support. Like, how many white people in the West are going to take up genocide?
This wouldn't even have been popular during like colonial times.
Yeah.
Then you could actually have done it.
He says, now we all know a politician will never deliver their promises, so might as well force them to campaign on the extremes, so you at least get a moderate outcome. Yeah, unfortunately, I'm not sure it works like that. I think I did read especially. Maybe I didn't, I don't know.
No.
Maybe I didn't actually, yeah. Fair enough. Well, yeah, okay. I think your one makes more sense. Okay, than my misreading. Okay, it says, both main parties have gone off the rails by putting internal politics first and good policy second. Yeah, the reason for that is because it's full of functionaries and power grabbers and career politicians who have got there despite not knowing what they're doing, because that's what the system is selected for. Because national politics is not where the power lies anymore, unfortunately. International, non-politics is where the political power lies. NGOs and corporations are more powerful than nations in many cases, and they, at least with international support. And so that's where the political power lies. That is one of the main reasons, if not the main reason, that we're having all these globalist issues in the world today. The effect of globalization, it's not nefarious. There's many nefarious aspects within it, but ultimately the effect is natural. Sadly, that's what I think anyway. There's other factors to it as well, though. But yeah, that's what it's selecting for. Bland people who will just do what they're told. Puppets. It goes on. Labour moving to the left after 2007, culminating in the absurdity of the Corbyn leadership, the Tories with Brexit, he says. Now, the Brexit was not an internal Tory thing. You may remember Cameron wasn't in favour of it. There was infighting within the party, but there was a lot of contention in the public sphere with that. A lot of people already wanted it to happen. Farage's popularity is not an accident. So the power struggles within the Tories after Brexit happened, you could argue is politics first and policy second. Yes. Labour has been doing that pretty consistently. No one wanted Corbyn's socialism, but many people, as evidenced, wanted Brexit. It says neither has fully recovered, and ironically, their failures have spawned new parties to their further left and right. Not anything worth mentioning on the left, really. The Greens and Lib Dems have gained some position, but I don't think they like to win anything. But Reform is worth fucking noting. Restore potentially as well. He says, yes, Britain needs radical change, but the difficulty, not just in Britain, is that too often the sensible people aren't radical, and the radical people aren't sensible. You see, I'm going to try and be both, chat. The first epochal change is in the geopolitical order where America's superpower status is now shared by China, he says, in time to be joined by India. Not sure
He's
I agree
delusional
with
about
that.
India, by the way.
Yeah.
He's fucking delusional.
I'm not sure I agree about that, Tony. He says a sort of G2 and 3. These countries will be far ahead of whichever nation is in fourth place. By this calculation, everyone else, including Britain, is a middle power, he says. Now, I don't think that China and India have that kind of power. The only power that they seem to have is that granted to them by the US. And it's mostly been because of inept, corrupt politicians.
Yeah, US is not called global hegemon for nothing.
And in terms of Britain and other European countries as well, the same shit's happening with us as well, inept leadership. There is nothing inherently preventing the British from becoming a major world power. The same thing with Germany, maybe the French, but generally European countries, nothing preventing it except the ineptitude of our leadership. And now some other problems they've caused that we need to uncause as well. It goes on, the second is the technology revolution led by development in artificial intelligence, which will change everything, he says. I mean, everything. Now, I agree that it will change everything, maybe too strong, but a lot. It'll be massively disruptive of the economy and of almost everything we do, but not yet. The advancements that have been made in AI in the last 5 years have been incredible, but those are, to some extent, that is the sort of low-hanging fruit stuff we've nabbed. For a while now, I think it'll be efficiency improvements. It won't be so much just growing the model. There'll be efficiency improvements, which are more difficult. Very worth it, though. Smaller models, which are more smartly designed, are much more difficult to do than just growing with a massive influx of money. So that will be difficult, but that's going to be the path. AI will eventually reach the point that he's talking about here, or roughly that point, but it will take longer, I think, than he would estimate. He says there is no point in debating whether this technological revolution is a good thing or bad thing. Just know it is a thing. In fact, it is the thing. It will displace jobs, though creating new ones, but no one yet knows the full consequence. Companies and countries will rise and fall on the back of it. It will revolutionize the private sector and should in time revolutionize public services and government. Yet people in most countries, including Britain, have no idea what is about to hit them. I agree with some of that. I wouldn't go quite as far as he does, but I agree with some of that. And yeah, people aren't really ready for it, but then no one ever is with this technology. Governments always react slowly, as do corporations. Ultimately, the experimenters, the pioneers, are the ones who are going to move fast. Everyone else needs to get on board, but it'll take a long time for big entities to get on board, as it should. He says this doesn't obviate the need for immediate policies in familiar areas like immigration or taxation, but it will in time change even those. Think of how Britain was in 1826 and how different it was in 1926. And then in 2026, this is the scale of change, but in dramatically faster time. Any government must find their place in this new world. In foreign policy, it means finding the alliances necessary to do collectively what countries other than the G2 and 3 cannot do alone. For domestic policy, governments must address what it means to govern in the age of AI. Now, it is true that even your populist right-wing parties today, the policies that they're presenting are solving problems that have been caused by globalists and leftists. They're solving problems. And some of the things they're proposing are actually new ideas. But I don't think even the populist right parties, I don't think they're actually going far enough to propose a new formula for this new age.
Yeah, they're not proactive.
Not enough.
Fundamentally reactionary.
There is, mostly. Some of them are somewhat innovative, but it's not the focus. There's too many problems to repair, too many repairs to do to worry about innovating right now, which I'm not saying it's wrong that they're doing this, but there will come a time where we will need really heavy innovation because there's really heavy changes happening. What we're trying to fix right now is stuff like that we'd be doing the exact same fixes if it were 20 or 30 years ago, or 50 years ago even. Almost the exact same fixes. They are obvious fixes, desperately needed fixes. Fucking most of the fixes we need to implement today, politically, would be accurate in like the ancient Greek times, or at least like hundreds of years ago. Even most of them, probably medieval people would agree. There's some of them are so fucking obvious that it's a wonder we have to even discuss them. However,
you can even extend that to pre-tribal societies.
In some cases, yes. However, the problems of today, the changes, the flux we're going through in society, bring into question the very notion of every form of government we've ever tried. Is democracy, or monarchy, or fascism, or anything, are they even applicable in the world we're entering? Probably, but it's a question worth asking. And so once we've fixed shit, there's a lot of work to do in innovating to adapt to this new paradigm. And it's very possible that the rate of speed of increase of change, of technological change particularly, which affects society and politics, will just continue to increase. It may be that there will be a plateau period for a while where it won't increase very much more. But I suspect not.
But then we also reach the eventually the issue of the permanent plateau, because there is, of course, a limit to what you can do, right? Just inexorably. There will be some kind of limit as to what you can do, no matter how much computing power, no much like there are problems. Okay, let's say you want to do something. There is going to be some things that you want to do that no amount of computing power could figure out ever, because it's just not possible.
Possibly.
Let's say you can't do faster than light travel, for example. Very much possible, right? Like you could have the entire planet dedicated to fucking computing, and you still wouldn't have enough compute to do it because it's not a thing. I wonder what that hard limit is for technology, because there is a hard limit.
Ultimately,
I can almost guarantee.
In those cases, if FTL travel is actually possible, then AI of sufficient quantity being given the ability to experiment on physical things, it probably would figure it out.
Yeah, but that's the question. What is and is not actually possible? Like if you have a society, as I said, that does have such an exponential growth curve in technology, you would get to that point very fast. Yeah. And the question is, what do you do in essentially a post-development society? Not even post-scarcity, post whatever the fuck. Yeah. It doesn't need it to be that. Hell, it might even not be that. Like you might still have scarcity in a post-development society.
Yeah, indeed. As I've mentioned before, I believe that evolution and the universe in general abhors stagnation more than it abhors corruption or malignancy, and it will use corruption to break stagnation. So if we ever get to the point where we're, quote, post-development, which is an interesting idea, that society would sooner destroy itself by subtle evolutionary forces than it would stay there, I think.
I imagine so, yes. I don't think you can have I mean, the question is how much deliberate stagnation can you induce? How much can you fuck with entropy, so to speak? At least the visual representation of entropy that we don't like, right? How much movement can you reduce in a system to prevent it from destroying itself?
Mm.
How long can you survive in a post-development state?
I have a theory that all corruption is the result of a power influence trying to prevent change, which would unseat them.
So that's rather funny, because that would have the prevention of these representations of entropy act as the causal force behind them. Implicitly. If I heard what you said right, at least.
Not sure. We may have misunderstood each other. We should keep reading, though, because there's a lot more to get through.
Yes.
The New World Order.
Oh, there it is. There it is. Yep. They always... Where do you get this from? Oh, maybe because they're saying it.
I mean, he was just talking about conspiracy theories being a bad idea earlier.
Yeah, and then it's like, but the New World Order.
Yeah. Now, of all people, of all goddamn people to be saying the New World Order, fucking Tozzle Blazzle here saying it. It's, if there's anyone in the world who you'd associate with the New World Order, old Tozzle here would be in the top 10 for pretty much anyone.
I mean, have you heard of this new thing called the New World Order? This guy who's called the Dark Lord likes it really much.
Yeah, the Dark Lord. He's a big globalist. Yeah, if you just listen to the words, it really sounds like it, doesn't it? He says, politics at an international level has always been primarily about power. No, all politics is about power, even though it masks it in certain ways. But if it's at an international level, then no one is able to enforce that, or it's very difficult to enforce any standards there. And so power ultimately is the standard people pursue, not naturally.
Well, power would thus be just irrelational, right? It would be entirely relative into the international system. It wouldn't actually be some central authority-based power. It would just be power over each other and leverage.
Indeed. I did plan for today to be a shorter stream. We'll get through a bit more of this, but what do you mean, Nachos? Well, fine. If you think that's the case, you want me to stream for longer, chat, you know what to do. See if we can get GigaStream up to 10K. That's what's required. If you have supported GigaStream at any point, then any contribution you send should go towards it. But to make sure, do /support GigaStream, and you can even contribute some of your coins when you do so. You can do /C to check how many coins you have as well. What? Scientists have used yeast found on a 5,300-year-old mummy to bake very good sourdough bread.
Why?
Yeah, why is the question I was asking as well. Thank you, Treebeard, for submitting this story.
There's no fucking way that's allowed, right?
Well, they're not necessarily
there's
going to
some ethical reason you can't do that, right?
They're not
you
necessarily
can't
going to
fucking
eat
sell
it.
that.
No, I don't think they're going to sell it.
I mean, motherfuckers used to powder up actual mummies and eat it, so...
Scientists have used yeast found on a 5,300-year-old mummy to bake sourdough bread, and beer could be next. The yeast was recovered from Utsi the Iceman, a naturally preserved mummy discovered by hikers in the Ottstal Alps near the Austria-Italy border in 1991. Otzi has been studied for decades, but new research published in the Journal of Microbiome found that his remains still contain a mix of ancient gut microbes and cold-loving microorganisms that may remain active under the conditions used to preserve him. Researchers from Urach Research in Italy cultivated 4 yeast strains from samples taken from the Otzi's skin and thawed internal water. According to Live Science, study first author Mohammed Sarhan and the team then tested whether the yeast could be used for fermentation. It worked as a dough. It was very good. Now, there's the basis. Chat, press 1 if you would eat the bread of that body.
Oh, you'd have two.
And press 2 if you would definitely eat the bread of that body. Oh, nachos, what have you done? I'll try the beer to Zabla. Brave man. Thank you for the contributions. Let's have them read out.
Nachos for 25 quid says, Giga Stream, no mummy yeast, cabal prevails.
Thank you, Squeagle, for the little song at the end there. See, Nomon, this is why we need you to sing, because it'll be like that. It'll be funny.
Horrific.
Sol for 5 quid says, in the stream, I have yet to see Greenwich Royal Observatory yet. Keep going.
I don't know what that is. I mean, I can guess, but I don't know what it is in this context. What did he mean by this? Literally, what did he mean by this? Nachos is insisting that you sing. Ghost is asking what the fuck did he return to?
He has not paid me enough for that.
Yeah, that's true. Okay. Thank you for the contributions, chat. Remember that if you want these to count towards GigaStream, which will extend the duration of the stream and torture me through making me stay awake even though I'm very tired, then you need to do /support GigaStream. Make sure that you've done that. And any coins that you've gained from these contributions can also be spent on that. Any currency converted into the system automatically counts towards things that you've mentioned and supported. But you also get User coins equal to the amount you contributed. So you can basically double up your contributions. Just make sure that you use the User coins. Yeah, there you go. Someone has denounced the topic GigaStream. Someone wants me to make the stream shorter. You're welcome to do that, of course. But chat, if you want to extend the stream, you can click the green button there and it will make the stream go longer. Also, remember, I have offered that we can do horse bouncing at the end of the stream if, wow, that actually went through. If horse bouncing reaches the top 5 on the board, which is very possible. Kaiser Holt says, cheer 69420 forever stream. And somehow that actually went through.
Reno Delinda is Kaiser Holt for 69k says forever stream XD.
Congratulations, Kaiser Holt. You probably affected the board quite significantly there. Let's have a look. Yep, almost everything that you have supported has just jumped up the board.
Congratulations for getting to the top of the board as well.
Thank you. I'm at the top of the board. Yeah, Sick-Puppy, unfortunately not everyone can do that. Right. So, well done, Kaiser Holt. Unfortunately, you didn't support many of the things that would actually have changed the outcome today. I don't have the power to make Starmer into a VTuber, but you've got that up on the board. Some of the other things on there are not particularly relevant anymore.
I mean, as a British citizen, you could petition the government.
I suppose I could. Kaiser Holt,
some signatures, 100,000.
If you're
is that required?
If you're very quick, anything you support now will count that amount towards it. GigaStream extends the stream. If you do /support GigaStream quickly, it might count that as part of it. You refuse. Okay, fair enough. I think there's a 30-second window on that. It might be 5 minutes. There's different ones for different circumstances. I'll need to look into it. But it is a bit generous on retroactivity, but not permanently retroactive like the old system was. Quick support Melanachos. Or you could do Mexichos and make her have the brown roll. They're both, they would both be valid options. Yeah, thank you for that contribution. Okay. Well, despite the fact you said forever stream in your contribution, so maybe I should count that as supporting GigaStream. Perhaps I will. Perhaps I'm that generous. Are you actually trying to get me to do a longer stream? If you actually want that, then I suppose I shall count it. What you could also do is, in order to get something on board, it has to have been supported at least once by someone. So if you do /support forever stream, it might just appear high up on the board immediately. And I probably would count that as equivalent to GigaStream. Although maybe I might code something to do a board that only shows real money contributions, because I think the idea I had was that GigaStream is based on real money contributions only. But for now, that's whatever. Okay. So, yeah, I'm not going to read through the rest of this story, but it's pretty fucked that they did that, but also kind of scientifically impressive.
But why does it say that they want to make a beer with it?
Because you can also make beer with yeast.
Yes, but why? They've already tried it. Why do they need to expand the use case?
Because it's challenge, I guess. Is it that much of a challenge, though? It's still
no,
just
they're
yeast.
just doing this for fun. they're just fucking with the corpse for fun.
This poor man.
This is just desecration.
Yeah.
Like it's like classy grave robbing. I get it, but still.
Hey, if you're gonna do grave robbing, at least wear a lab coat for it.
Nah, true.
Sarah says they're doing this because of the massive grants. Yeah, there might be. There might indeed be.
Oh yeah, well with the beer, they're gonna get them easy, right?
Mm. So Kaiser Holt, do you actually want the stream to go on longer, or was that just a meme? If you actually like it to, because you can count that towards it. Nachos, is your name Kaiser Holt? I didn't think so.
I mean, it does sound very Mexican to me, but
true. Kaiser, I can't do a 24-hour stream. I'm already falling asleep, but I could go for another hour and a half, which is what the Giga stream would purchase. Superboy says, yeast isn't actually that bad, very safe. Are we going to trust the guy who said, watch the piss anime?
And then say, haha, I tricked you to watch the piss anime. And then reverted to watch the piss anime.
His narrative keeps flipping. Anyway, the New World Order. Shall we switch from this to Starmer's response? Because I think we've got the gist. The rest of it's pretty detail. I think probably this is
yeah, he doesn't say particularly much more.
Okay.
I don't think.
I'm going to
just kind of drones on about geopolitics because that's his autistic area of interest.
Yeah, fair enough. I'm going to quickly read a bit of Starmer's response just to get the gist of that as well. But then we'll move on a bit. There's other stuff to look at. Tony Blair, he says, might not like my plan, but he's wrong. It's changing Britain for the better. Meanwhile, literally everything's getting worse. He says, with characteristic lucidity, Tony Blair has set out his own contribution to the debate about the future of our country and the Labour Party. This is welcome, says Starmer, not least because I respect his opinion. He is one of the few people in the country who knows what it is like to serve as Prime Minister and the only other living person to have secured a Labour majority. Yeah, but he did it under slightly more challenging circumstances, I think. He says, when he speaks on politics, I find it usually pays to listen. There is much in his essay to agree with. He is right to point out, as he always has, that ideas and policy are the determining factors in long-term political success. Clearly, we have a very different view about the conflict in Iran and more generally about how to balance our long-standing alliance with the US alongside a strong and sovereign British foreign policy. But at the strategic level, he says, we also agree that Britain must resist the growing clamour to break with the US. He's got that part right. The security partnership is simply too deep and too valuable to our national interest to throw away in a fit of gesture politics. I mean, that's kind of an obvious one, though. Like, it's very obvious. Besides, the current president's central demand of Europe that we take more responsibility for our own defense is not unique to him. It was the position of America before he was president. It will be the position of America after he ceases to be president. Yeah, Trump's been a bit more forceful about it, but he is right. It's not even a matter of Europe, you have to pay your way. No, it's Europe, what the fuck are you doing? You're still countries, you still are supposed to be able to defend yourselves. Where is your military? It's from the US. That's one thing the US is pretty much just completely right on. It's as much exasperation as it is insistence for their own benefit.
I mean, but the question is why. It is entirely beneficial to the US to have Europe be militarily dependent upon them.
I'm not sure about that.
America shouldn't want an independent Europe.
I'm not sure about that.
I'd say it's pretty currently Europe is or at least has been pretty much the exclusive domain of the area of influence of America. It's been the sphere of influence.
If America would want that to stay the same, and for their allies to be strong,
Which they should want.
They should want, of course.
You cannot have both in the same way. You cannot create a separate power block and maintain your hegemony over it.
You can, as long as it's not too powerful.
I mean, yes, but the problem with independence is independent forces of considerable power seek more power.
Yeah, and they probably want a balance.
Thus inexorably pitting you against them.
I think right now the balance is too dependent on the US. They want a balance that's more.
I mean, yeah, that's what vassalage is like. That's how it's structured.
It's
do you think this was unintentional for? I mean, do you think this was unintentional from America from the beginning?
Well, which part of it? Because I don't believe the US. I don't think the US wants this level of dependency, where militarily Europe wouldn't be able to do much without NATO and US's protection. They would want less dependency than this. Like the ideal sweet spot for strong allies and influenced allies is stronger than this for Europe, I think.
I mean, but the problem is when you induce a movement, you are not in direct control of how much that movement moves to the direction that you have deliberately pushed it with all your might.
True. Still, though, it would make sense potentially to push it in that direction and hope it doesn't go too far.
Yes, but it's very risky for such a big thing.
Trump is a man of risks, but as they mention here, he's not the only one to have said it.
True.
Right, let's have this.
Mofaku, Barry McCockina for 50 says, 24-hour stream. If not, then Ozalu has to rewatch Made in Piss from beginning to end.
We haven't finished it yet, actually. Still more of it.
Yeah, we are on season 2 in the beginning, I think. Still.
I was not enjoying the episodes we watched last, to be honest.
Yeah, same.
I don't think so, guys. Oh, what is that? Oh. It's also tiresome. To finish it so Sick will shut the fuck up about it. Well, the thing is, Sick is oscillating between different narratives. Sometimes he shuts the fuck up about it. Sometimes he goes back to, I can't believe I tricked you into watching this thing I desperately wanted you to watch and love.
And it is so unbelievably transparent.
Yes.
And he pretends like it isn't.
I think maybe he thinks the transparency itself is kind of endearing, but it's not really at this point.
Not, by the way.
No. What the fuck is that voice even supposed to be? Good fucking question. If you want to change the voice for something else, go to 11 Labs, browse through the voices, copy an ID and send it to me. And I can just use it without even restarting the bot. I've said this so many times before and people haven't taken me up on the offer. Nachos likes it. What? Because it sounds Mexican like you? That makes sense. Anyway, Keir continues. He says, there is good reason for this. It is right. It is long past time for Europe to strengthen its hard power, and Britain must play a leading role. That is why we are introducing the highest sustained increase in defense spending since the Cold War. Spending of what money, though, Keir? It's why we are building up a distinctly European pillar of NATO, and it's why, amongst many other reasons, we will seek a much closer relationship with the European allies at the upcoming summit with the European Union. An allegiance, a close relationship even, can be achieved without managerial or political dependence and integration. The latter is a very bad idea for disparate nations. Can work for nations with significant common interest or for nations with a disbalance of power. See the US and the UK. It goes on, moreover, now is a good moment to reflect on the government's course. As I said, he said, when the results came through, I am not in the business of ignoring a message from the voters as stark as the one Labour received at the recent local elections. And the signal is that my government needs not just to be better, but also to be bolder. It would be interesting if he gained a vision, wouldn't it? They actually had policy ideas.
I mean,
would be interesting.
I don't think he's ever going to have that. Any vision that he had. You said Blair's vision was boring. I imagine his would be an order of magnitude more so.
I expect you're right.
Add a coffee machine to the Labour meeting hall. But only let it serve Frappuccino.
Oh, that's bold. That's bold policy making right there. He goes on growth, defense, Europe, energy, and opportunity, we do now need a bigger response than we anticipated in 2024. In a world that has become even more volatile, that is what our change mandate demands. It's just big words, but the thing is, even from the Tories, they were often saying all the right things. Well, not all, but they were often saying many of the right things. They didn't do them. Labour can't even manage to say the right things. Right now, what they're saying is we should endeavour to try harder to say what we think are the right things, which are actually the wrong things, and then not do them. Or do them, but do worse things. So, yeah, it's pretty dire. But these are the dark days before something that may be better, which we knew we were going to have to do when we decided to, as a people, to punish the Conservative Party. We knew that Labour would win by default, but these 5 years under Labour have been instructive already. We haven't even spent 5 years, but they were always going to be instructive. But even the time we've spent have been very instructive already. Is Blair going to challenge Keir for PM? This is Keir's article now, as a whole. But no, I doubt Blair would lower himself to mere political politics at this point. Party politics, sorry. Yes, we're on to Keir's article now. It's annoying, that's why I like it. Well, Nacho, is that a common effect in your life? I mean, you seem to keep coming back despite the fact we keep calling you Mexican. Which, of course, is true.
That's because she is a Mexican. oh, sorry, he is a Mexican.
Oh, yeah, sorry. He is a noble Latinx black man, future engineer and scholar. Sorry, did I say man? I meant AI.
Mestizo AI, man.
Oh. Right. Nonetheless, it will come as no surprise to hear, he says, that I do not agree with everything Tony says about Britain or the government, and to explain why it is instructive to return to the 2024 context and the despairing commentary about Britain's perceived decline. It was a running theme of the campaign. Britain was in an unbreakable trap, a doom loop so fiendish that escape was utterly inconceivable. Well, it wasn't, actually. There were many it's not difficult in concept to do it.
It is.
Yeah. He says higher investment in public services,
he doesn't want to do.
We were told, could not be achieved without risking the health of the public finances or throttling economic growth. Significantly reducing immigration was equally impossible without much the same effect, he says, but I disagree. Not only should we significantly reduce immigration, we should keep all the Brits here and significantly increase deportations to the point that net migration is way below zero without any Brits leaving. He says, significantly reduce. The loudly proclaimed truth was simple. Any new government would have to choose between rebuilding the economy, improving public services, or reducing immigration. At best, it was a trilemma, he says. There are ways, I believe, that you could practically, probably, solve all three at once. Firstly, reducing immigration significantly would help public services. It would probably also help the economy, though the initial shock would be bad for the economy. It would level out in the end. The reducing taxes overall would help with the economy significantly, and cutting down on waste in public services, which I know is difficult, but it's very important to do, and probably reducing the scope of those public services as well would also improve the economy. and reduce government spending. So there's just a few things that you could do which would generally help. The only argument I could see against that, against any of that, is the initial shock to the system it would be. And yes, it would. But these things need to happen. Even if it needs a sacrificial leader to do it, we need to find that sacrificial leader and then do it. You see, this is among the arguments that work for a power system where the leader stays in for longer, like monarchy. This is an argument for it. I don't think it rises to be worth it overall to do something like that, but a system with a more hard leadership structure where they are guaranteed to be in their position for more than 5 years, but where their ascension was populist, I think there's a time and a place for that. I think now would be a good time and a place for that. Not necessarily dictatorial, but powerful, but distinctly populist. Because right now we're in a position where what the people want would be drastically better, not just for them, but for the nation. What the elites want doesn't really concern the nation. It concerns what international forces want for the nation, which is worse for the people in it. And that's where we're stuck. And it kind of fucking sucks.
Morphaku, Barry McAkinner for 86 says, Geiger Steam Tomboy Supremacy makes him tell Nachos to stop asking me if I will do the needful. The HRAI seems broken.
Indeed. I could create a co-worker for Nachos, an apprentice HR lady with an AI model. Like, Cabby's not quite ready yet, but when she is, I can move on to developing other characters. Amelia AI. Well, I don't want to be derivative. I don't want to be. I don't be quite that Masham-esque about it, you know.
Masham-esque.
Yep. True Ghost is what Archie's for, and I want to bring Archie back. Archie was an AI who had a simpler scope than Cabby, and I was less prissy about it making mistakes because it's a mad old wizard. So it was fine to running on my local PC using a model that is generally very good, but is really bad at like prompt injection and other. But that doesn't matter for Archie, so I can still use that same model and just add features to it. So that could be a local model. That could be a character that runs locally. That generally could work. Or I could put it on a bigger model in the cloud, which would be fairly cheap. But I think I want to run Archie locally. The code, so the AI model doesn't just do its thing and connect automatically. I had to do it myself. And getting Discord messages and putting them into context and organizing them and putting them in the order and the structure that the AI can understand, and worrying about the cache tokens, worrying about people typing, so not showing the messages to the AI right then, worrying about multi-message turns and session management. All this stuff is extremely complicated in concert. That's what I've been working on recently. It's the thing that connects the platform where people are talking to the actual AI neural net model. And that chunk of code, which I've been working on a lot recently, is extremely complicated, more than it sounds. But at this point, I'm pretty happy with it. It's getting much better. And once that foundation is ready, I can just start adding characters pretty quickly, because most of the hard work is done already by that foundational code. Head of HR Archie. That's good. Nachos, would you take instructions and orders from head of HR Archie? You hated Archie. Really? I didn't think you hated him. Yeah, but you liked Pixie though. Absolutely fucking not, she says. But it would be funny though. HR lady Nacho says, Mofako, I'm going to hurt you in ways you're not going to like. How many ways could you hurt him that he would like? Didn't sound GT enough when it said do the needful. I'm sure that we could find an Indian voice to read some of these out. I wonder if there's like a Kit Boga shouting Indian saying do not redeem voice that someone's made at 11 Labs. Mofaku was inviting you to attempt to make him suffer. Indian for the Indian hybrid AI. Oh, I think that might be a bad idea. Can't see the list since I don't have an account. On 11 Labs? Should be able to view the library without an account. I would have thought so. If the Indian voice, I don't want some brown touching me. Right. Well, let's continue. Today, he says that hand-wringing's commentary remains unabated, but the facts about Britain have changed dramatically, he says. After a decade of austerity, a Labour government has delivered record public service investment and performance is improving. Is it now? He says, we are on track to deliver the fastest reduction in NHS waiting time since the service's creation in 1948. Net migration has fallen from a high of nearly 1 million towards the end of the Tory period to just 171,000 now. The thing is, there's really two factors that make that up. One is Britain is less economically tempting. It's already at saturation point of immigrants. I don't know if that's true, but it's definitely possible. And two is the amount of English people that are leaving. I don't know how much of the numbers that makes up, but I suspect it's a non-trivial amount. He says, knife crime is significantly down. Unfortunately, one very notable example recently comes to mind, but an anecdote does not a statistic make. And he says the asylum backlog has been slashed by 46% with hotel use also falling. Just deport all of them immediately. I think it's safe to say as a blanket consideration that none of them have a valid asylum claim. He says childcare investment has saved working families an average of £8,000 a year. Yeah, but you probably increased taxes to do it or decreased other services to do it. Ultimately, the money has to come from somewhere, Starmer. If you're saving people money, quote unquote, all you're doing is choosing how they spend it or pilfering it from the rich who leave, leaving you with a theoretical £8,000 a year of savings, but with the economy shrinking as a result of it being so unappealing to be in, realistically, they're losing more than that. The people who will be saving this are losing more than that because the economy sucks. This is unfortunately the result of spending other people's money. Eventually you run out of it. To quote Maggie Thatcher. He says, and child poverty is set to fall by over 500,000 children. That is the biggest reduction in a single term of any British government ever. Unfortunately, way too many children today are people that should not be in Britain.
I mean, yeah, fucking preceded by the largest increase in child poverty probably ever.
Quite possibly, yeah. Unfortunately, Starmer, reading out a bunch of stats and quote achievements doesn't help if the whole country feels fucked. I'm not one for paying attention to feelings much, but they're not baseless. And when it's really consistent, when everyone feels things are getting worse, and you can point on paper to things, something's getting better, I'm afraid to say, the paper is not convincing. People need to feel like things are better. Because that's really the only way for them to to know that they are. It's not always true, but that's what you need to do now. It's a time for populism. If you're not appealing to the populace, if you're appealing to technocrats, if you're pointing pieces of paper at people, that was a good alliteration, and saying, look, it's better, but they're suffering while you're saying it, it's pointless.
But don't you see that they have partially solved or reduced some of the issues that they caused? Doesn't that fill you with a sense of civic pride?
Mm-hmm.
The Labour Party?
If we're using the term they to refer to all of these establishment parties, then yes. Since the year 2000 roughly, they have caused almost every problem on this list, and it's been significantly worse than any repair they have done since.
The hotel use falling by 46%. Also, is that counting tourism decreases too?
That's a good question, Amon. That's a very good question. He didn't specify, did he? I guess I took him at the intent of his words. I steel-manned him, but perhaps I shouldn't have fucked with the numbers. Nachos, I would not be at all surprised if every single one of these stats had been massaged. The question of whether they have actually reduced childhood poverty, whether they have actually like properly reduced immigration, whether they've actually properly reduced NHS waiting times, like whether they've done all these things without either doing with the stats or without causing a side effect that's much worse, I would fucking doubt it.
I mean, the sad thing is they probably just increased all of this first. You know, like sure, you get the childhood poverty down by whatever the fuck number, but you had it up by 3 times that number before.
Not only is that fairly common in politics, but it's also relatively easy for a government to do, and I would not be surprised if that's what's happened here, unfortunately. So yeah, it's pretty fucked. He says, meanwhile, in challenging global circumstances, the British economy is clearly outperforming our peers. I'd like to think so, Keir. I'd like to take what you're about to say at face value and just be like, yes, even though things are shit, we're still doing better than the fucking French. But I fear that may not be the case. He says, we were the fastest growing economy in the G7 at the start of this year, but that's measured by GDP, which I don't consider a particularly strong metric. He says, a situation I was repeatedly told in opposition would simply never occur. He says, borrowing is on track to come down quicker than any other major economy, which again, could be good, but these stats could be fudged. He says, there have been 6 interest rate cuts since the election. Despite the conflict in Iran, inflation fell last month, showing that the fundamentals of our economy, of our efforts to tackle the cost of living are sound. And in every single month that we have been in power, wages have gone up, he said. This is not just lines on a graph. This is not just a doom loop finally escaped. That is more money in the pockets of working people. I'm afraid to say, Starmer, I just can't believe you. Until I start to notice people are actually happy with their situation, there's actual good indicators that the economy is getting better. Because you can't really tax your way into improving the economy. That seems to be most of what you've done so far. What Zuma slips doom loop into a proper Starmer speech? They've got to appeal to the kids.
ChatGPT did.
Yeah, possibly. I don't see any EM dashes so far, but wouldn't be surprised.
No, they probably have a removal guy.
Yeah, I mean, it's dead easy. It's a shock that anyone leaves them in, to be honest. They must know by now, unless they're Indian. He says, now I am the first to admit that this escape was not cost-free. Along the way, we made mistakes, most obviously when setting the level at which to means test the winter fuel payment. We also asked a lot of the British people, including particularly businesses who now pay higher national insurance contributions. And while we were right to be clear, both during the campaign and since, that it would take a while to turn the British oil tanker around, I do believe that the mood music in the early part of the government was too negative. We should have shown the underlying hope of our direction much more clearly. See, this is... I never saw any indication that they had a vision, that they ever have. It just seems to be decline management. And this article, am I supposed to take this article at its word over what I observed or did not observe? Should I interpret this as, oh, he did have a vision. Oh, that's interesting. Take him at his word. Or should I interpret it as, he's quite a skilled writer, this one. He's managed to formulate what's happened to make it look like he had a vision.
I think
it's going to be
he does have a vision, but the vision is managed decline. His vision is to uphold the principles that result in the managed decline. Rather, you got to remember, this guy is a fucking human rights lawyer by profession before politics.
Why think shit like this as
entirely
a lawyer?
A fucking person of the international system. He is a man of, I think, heavy principles in some directions, and probably not much more substance than those principles instilled in him by the said system that he belongs to so readily. I mean, so deeply.
Chat, we are approaching the 3-hour mark, and I am genuinely too tired to continue. Thank you, Nachos. Let's see how much you cry next time I call you a male Mexican black AI who likes to take orders from AI.
Absolute Mexiclanker.
Now, here's the question, chat. Option 1, I try and go on a bit longer, but we don't do anything after stream because I'm just going straight to bed. Option 2, we'll wrap up pretty soon. We're at 3 hours now. We're 30 seconds off it. And then we'll chill for a while, watch a few things, and I'll probably go to bed after a while. Now, I noticed that we do have everyone here that we would need to watch a spot fairy tale, which we're at the good bit right now, chat. Yes, they have so far, Ghost. If you have, not that you have any Uzicons, of course, but if you had a few, you could push Haunt Spawns up the board. We have a look at the board here. It needs to get to 5th on the board in order to happen. Oh, it's not as likely now because guys all pushed other things up. All right, well then I'll be generous. If Haunt Spawnsing can reach, say, well, let's say if it can get onto the board now, if it can get to the top 10, then we'll do a spot of Haunt Spawns. You only have about an hour. Well, that is enough time for a few. I mean, I'm not going to stay up any longer than an hour from now, I don't think. How far down is it? Says Ghost. Good question. Let me check. See a topic. Horse bouncing. It's currently at. Oh wow. I'm going to change my qualifications. It needs to get to 8K because currently it's in 11th. Basically, it's right below the bottom of the board. You just supported it. Oh, did you? Maybe that's what just changed. Hold on, let me check. I might take that back again. If you've just supported it and that's what pushed it there. But everything else you support was also boosted by it. I wonder if there is a way that I could fix that. Well, by requiring exact numbers is the way I'd fix that. I think that's probably good enough. Let me just check what occurred. Okay. I think that's probably good enough. All right, chat. Is that what you want to do? Do you want to bounce horses, or do you want to fizzle, or do you want me to read more of Keir Starmer's brilliant writing? Because it seems like what you're saying is you want a horse bounce. I think you might be alone in the Keir advocacy there, Ghost. The Keir audacity. Oh no, Kaiser also stands with Keir. All right, I'm going to make a poll then. All right, chat. I've made a very clear poll here. Fizzle for Fairy Tale, Stiggle for Stargate, Kizzle for Keir Starmer, and Hizzle Bizzle for horse bouncing. What will it be, chat? What will it be? Kizzle's getting some votes here, chat, which is a first for him. Good night, Ducksmith. It is already quite late. It's almost 3 in the morning.
Mofaku, Barry McCockiner for 50 says, Monster stream do not redeem. Haunt Spawns do the redeem, sir.
Norman, it occurs to me that I haven't been screen sharing this whole time. Haven't really needed to because it's just text.
I was just watching through YouTube instead. I didn't want to interrupt stream for it.
That's all right. I appreciate the concern, but that's okay. Okay, thank you for the contribution. How much was that? Was it just 50? Chat, I'm quite tired. Okay, what's got the votes? It's equal between Keir Starmer and horse bouncing. Okay, but do I assume that the votes for Keir Starmer are joke votes?
What do you mean? Those are 100% serious.
Mm-hmm. How about Keir Starmer bouncing? Malgatello, put Keir Starmer in horse bouncing.
Do it. It'll be great.
Chat, now is the moment to vote, to change. You can change the outcome of the vote. Either we're going to keep reading Keir Starmer's dronings for a while, or we're going to bounce some horses. And there's even the other options as well. I am way too tired. Kia bouncing is moving its way on up the board.
It's a three-way tie.
100 says, have Nachos do the key bouncing for a scandal. He can do it.
You've spelled Kia wrong, by the way, but never mind. Okay, it's now a three-way tie. Okay, Hizzle is ahead. Hizzle is ahead again. Oh, it's a tie between Kizzle and Hizzle.
Oh,
What a ridiculous situation. Oh my god, Kizzle's
it's no longer a
ahead.
tie. Oh, it is tie now.
I think Hizzle.
Hizzle's
I think the joke votes are now more
Oh, it's
numerous than the serious ones. I think I'm gonna settle on. We'll do a few rounds of Hozzle. Stance bunch.
a tie. Last chance to vote for Keir Starmer.
Yeah, Keir Starmer's like a strange quark. He just changes everything into himself. Okay, where was I? It's going to be Hozzle, chat.
I can't believe it. Keir Starmer lost another election.
Mm-hmm. Keir bounce for the tie. Yeah, well, Keir Starmer's not in the horse bouncing game.
Your father made you wrong!
Yeah, Nachos. He made you Mexican. All right, chat. I'm going to take a very quick break, probably no more than about 30 seconds. And then we will Hozzle. I'll be right back. All right, Hozzlers and Bozzlers. It's time. Fenton Yahoo. Very good. Get ye ready for Hozzle Bozzle. Right, let's do a configuration. Swap Hozzles. Right, we'll turn off the ones that are misleading or ambiguous. Or hard to see. Then edit Hozzles. Once again, I'm going to be generous to Nachos and give her the honk horse that she likes. Except Brown Shows is still in here, so you know, she only gets a little bit of what she wants. Total time limit, I think that was quite good last time. Turn it down a little bit. And random map. Yes, I like this one. All right, chat. Place your bets. Which horse would you want to win? Let me show you the selection of horses. Look at the ones on the left list here. These are the available horses. Select one horse that you like and enter its color or its name, or if you don't mind, both. Ready? And they're off. Pixie making some nice progress in the right direction. Pixie's one that I wouldn't mind bringing back, but she probably have to be a local model because she's a bit degenerate. Shovel Pixie in a corner. Make it impossible for her to talk anywhere but ooze alludes. Perhaps a sub-thread. So if you want to talk to Pixie, you have to go find her first. It's not a bad idea. Is it put like a secret AI character in my server somewhere? Hidden Pixie, yeah. She took her as a local model when she was first. She was alright. I gotta not have high standards for any local model. With Cabby, my standards are high even for a frontier model, let alone a local model. Only Hans. Oh! The Dirty Jew has unfortunately won, chap. Who voted for Bibby? Alright, I think I'm willing to give Seraph a win on that one because he did say that you win by default. He did call it, so I will assume that that was you choosing that horse. So there you go. Congratulations. Next round. I'll do try and find. This is a classic. All right, chat, place your bets. See you soon, guys. Ready? And they're off. Nacho is bringing up the rear. Will she end up with the glue hat today? Well, I don't plan to do very many rounds, so it's a distinct possibility. Did you almost made it through the briar patch? Pixie's the closest. Can't quite get the angle though. Oh, and with a bit of help from Bartholomew, there she is. She wins it. Pixie, my dear, I'm so proud of you. Congratulations, Pixie. Did anyone vote for Pixie? No, they did not. No winners this round. What a shame. What a shame. All right, next round. Ready, chat? Place your bet. Who would you want to win? Seraph, it's very suspicious that you're voting for the Jew. Do you feel a sympathy, a genetic sympathy, perhaps, for the Jew?
No, he smells it.
What, you mean he smells unclipped coins? A dirty Jew, speaking of clipping coins, has snuck ahead by eking his way through the wilderness, followed by Brown Churs and Bartholomew. Jews and the Browns, always together. Bartholomew's making it very rapidly towards the end. It looks like it's going to be Bartholomew. There he is. The clock. Now, Nomon, do you see anyone who voted for the clock?
I did.
No, I don't think you did.
I did.
Well, you always do. Is it because it's narrowly the closest color to your profile picture? Or is there some other reason?
No, it is not. It is one of the only. It is the only non-human character that is not AI.
Fair enough. Well, what about a dirty Jew?
I mean, narrowly human.
Breaking news. No one humanizes Jews. Ready? Yes, place your bets, chat. I'll find a good map. I feel like there's one. That's a fine one to start with. Okay. Let us continue. They're off. Aiden is ahead. Aiden making good progress here. Looks like she's got a straight shot to the win here. And there she is. Treebeard's still here. I believe he voted white as he always does. No one likes the analog clankers. Would you agree, no one?
Yeah, I do have certain fondness for analog machinery.
What was that noise?
Good question.
Mofaku and Hunter Zero in Hunter Zero just joined, so it'll have been him who was broadcasting that. Careful with your mic being open, Hunter Zero. Okay. Alright. Ready everyone? Place your bets. Alright. And onwards. And they're off. Bartholomew fucked. Just gone immediately. Nachos and Pixie out the map. Estrella here making good progress towards the end. Oh, I usually remove Estrella because they're both green. Him and Di both green. Estrella's found the path though, and there he goes. Estrella's won it. Poor Nachos. Okay, did anyone vote for Estrella? I don't think so, no. Okay, next round. It's the cock bomb. We'll do that one. I'll do this one. All right, remember the call outs, chat. All right, place your bets. Right, and now onwards. And they're off. Right, I have muted Hunter Zero. Di is now the first ahead, followed by Nachos. Could it be finally the victory that Nachos needs to avoid the glue hat? Nachos is making her way through the taint. She's found her way into the chode. Would be a dark day indeed if she were to win this. Di with a hope to knock her out, but immediately squandered. She leaves. Archie now, my boy Archie, can you finally defeat the pink haunts of doom? Archie's made his way past the ball sack into the prostate, and there he goes. And he wins it. Congratulations. Ah, Nachos, you were just complaining about Archie. Isn't that fitting? Sorry, chat, I'm a bit sneezy. All right, well done, Nachos. You took that loss well. Okay, no votes for red though. Okay, I'm so proud of Archie. Frankly, so proud of Archie. This is what is required for U.S. immigration policy as well. Beat the Mexicans. Ready, chat? Place your bets. Right, and they're off. Who will get past these slightly darker areas first? We'll have the push. Stray almost did there. With a bit of help from Pixie, but not quite good enough. Many attempts, all ending in failure. Not to worry though, if no one gets close in time, there is an alternative. Oh, Pixie's managed to make it through one of them. Pixie's now the closest. But there is an alternative. There is now a feature of this, as of 1 or 2 of these streams ago, which speeds up the end of the round if time has gone on for too long. Credit to Malcatillo for creating this excellent game. Dark Cabbie's forced her way through the obstruction at the top there, and may be able to get towards the end, but she isn't currently trying very hard for it. She's found her way into the extended area down below as well. Oh, but maybe this is it, and there she goes! Dark Cabbie's finally won one. That's quite rare, actually. That means Malcatillo gets some points. Right, good. Let's add him to the list. How long has it been since Dark Cabbie's won a round? It's for some reason really rare. I've done his work and played Kenshi for the last 2 weeks, 12-hour shifts. Hope you're doing all right. All right. Ready, chat? Place your bets. I think we'll just do maybe 3 more rounds after this. I'm very tired. All right, ready? And they're off. Bartholomew with a decent angle here. Maybe just enough on its own. And he's in! Wow. No one got a second point.
Hey.
It was for orange. I don't think so. No, a very, very good angle from Bartholomew there. It must have been almost direct line straight towards the end. He fucking messed it. Get it, no one? All right, next map. We do this one. Ready, chat? Place your bets. Who has talent, skill, and acumen to win this one? It's a very tight and dense map. Nachos has left the map. The glue hat seems inevitable. It's a very fraught map, so it's it may take a while for any of them to get all the way there, but currently Bartholomew is probably the closest, but he's making his way in the wrong direction. Yeah, he might have got stuck here, but no one else is close. Brancho's helping Cabbie in the right direction here. Cabbie with a chance. Could it finally be a Cabbie win? Looks like it is. There it is. Well done, Cabbie. Good day for her. Anyone else for her? Doesn't look like it. Okay. Last round then. We did this one for the last round. Okay, chat, place your bets. Last round, I will double the winnings for this round. Remind me if I forget. Oh, Nachos, this could be your last chance. All right, chat, ready? All right. This map is even tighter, even denser than the previous one. Yeah, they're off to a roaring start. Cabby and Archie probably equally close. Nacho's relatively close to the front of the pack here, if you can call it a pack. Still a chance for Nachos to pull out a victory here, which she desperately needs to avoid that glue hat. Nachos not quite finding the angle she needs to get through. She is still in a good position to potentially take it. Brown shows here, the real Nachos is now the closest, but keeps jostling. Aiden is now made it further than anyone else has. And with a chance, but now going backwards. Archie's getting some good progress here. He's got a good line, and it's Archie. It's my boy Archie. It's my boy. I think this is a signal chat. Both times that Nachos has been in with some sort of potential chance of winning here, Archie's just taken it from her, and she today said she hated Archie. So I think Archie is the chosen one. Chat, press 1 if the imminent revival of Archie is an important affair for the suppression of overactive female ambition in Cabal. You know, Mofaku, I would consider making Archie the head of AR. I would consider it. Right, well, Nachos, enjoy your glue hat. That's going to be the end. I don't think anyone voted for Archie, so no one got the double winnings. Oh no, Ghost did. Well done, Ghost. Well, Ghost, these will be your first User coins, right? You never had any others, right? Okay. Let us disburse the winnings. Right, so give Seraph 100 horse bouncing. Let's copy that. Give Nomon 200 horse bouncing. Give Treebeard 100 horse bouncing. Give Malcatillo 100 horse bouncing, and give Ghost 200 horse bouncing. There we go. All sorted. Indeed, Ghost, never a user coin in your life. All right, chat, thank you for joining me. Thank you for staying. And thank you so much for insisting that I stay awake and entertain you long after I was way too tired to do so. We will finish it there. Yeah, I'll see you soon then. I probably won't be around for very long. I'm going to go to bed very soon. However, I will join Pit 1, and I don't know, maybe I could be persuaded to put something on. We'll see. So, thank you for joining me, everyone. I'll see you shortly, and today was a different day than I normally stream, but I will be back streaming again. Aim to back streaming again Saturday. So today for UK and Europe. Right. Thank you, chat. See you soon. Good night.